In this video, we're diving deep into 2 hours of the most obscure and overlooked Naruto lore. Let's get started. First up, we got the Uzushi-Ogakure alliance with Konoha. Why Uzumaki sealing arts led to their destruction. The Uzushi-Ogakure alliance with Konoha. Why Uzumaki sealing arts led to their destruction. The Uzumaki clan was basically the ninja world's equivalent of that one friend who's too good at everything and somehow makes everyone else feel threatened just by existing. Picture this. A whole clan of red-haired sealing jutsu masters who could live longer than your grandma's grandma, had more chakra than a power plant, and could seal away literal demons like they were packing leftovers. Naturally, this made them both super respected and super feared, which is basically the ninja world's version of being popular and having everyone secretly plot against you behind the gym. The whole story starts way back with the Sage of Six Paths, the legendary Hagoromo Otsutsuki. This guy had 2 sons, and like most family drama, those 2 sons started different bloodlines that would eventually become major clans. The younger son, Asura, had descendants who became the Senju clan. The Uzumaki are distant relatives of the Senju, who descend from Asura. So basically, the Senju and Uzumaki were like distant cousins who actually liked each other, which is rare enough in real life, but apparently even rarer in a world where clans spent most of their time trying to murder each other during the Warring States period. The Uzumaki clan lived in Uzushi-Ogakure, which translates to the village hidden in the whirlpools. The name comes from the whirlpool symbol that became their clan emblem, that spiral design you see everywhere in the Naruto series. The village was located in the land of whirlpools, and it was known as the Village of Longevity because the Uzumaki people just refused to age like normal humans. Mito Uzumaki, for example, lived from way before Konoha was even founded and stayed alive through the reigns of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Hokages. That's like living through multiple presidential administrations while barely getting any gray hair. This longevity thing was tied to their incredibly strong life force, which also gave them massive amounts of chakra and the ability to recover from injuries that would put regular ninja in the hospital for months. But what really made the Uzumaki famous, and eventually doomed, was their mastery of sealing techniques, or fuinjutsu. These weren't your basic, put a scroll in a storage seal techniques. The Uzumaki were operating on a completely different level, creating seals that could trap tailed beasts and do things that most ninja couldn't even comprehend. The typical Uzumaki sealing formula appeared as a spiral crest, matching their clan symbol, and when you saw that spiral forming on the ground, you knew something serious was about to get locked away forever. Uzumaki lore includes a mask enabling the dead demon consuming seal, one of the most feared techniques in the ninja world. During the Warring States period, before hidden villages even existed, the Senju and Uzumaki clans maintained close relationships despite not living in the same place. They would marry between clans to strengthen their bond, and this tradition continued even after the era of constant warfare ended. When Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha finally stopped trying to kill each other and founded Konohagakure, marking the beginning of the Hidden Village era, the Uzumaki were right there supporting their distant relatives. The alliance between Konoha and Uzushi-Ogakure got super official when Hashirama Senju, who became the first Hokage of Konoha, married Mito Uzumaki. Mito came from Uzushi-Ogakure to Konoha, and this marriage wasn't just a romantic gesture, though the relationship between them was genuine. It was a political and strategic alliance that bound 2 incredibly powerful groups together. Mito was a master of sealing techniques herself, and after Hashirama fought Madara at the Valley of the End and obtained the 9-tailed fox from him, Mito sealed that massive demon inside herself, becoming the very first Jinchuriki in Konoha. Taking a tailed beast into your body is basically like volunteering to host the world's angriest roommate who wants to destroy everything, but Mito managed it because of her Uzumaki life force and sealing expertise. To show just how tight the friendship was between Konoha and Uzushi-Ogakure, the Senju clan decided to put the Uzumaki's whirlpool emblem on Konoha's flak jackets. Every Chunin and Jonin in Konoha wore that symbol on their uniforms, and they put it on the shoulders of their outfits too. This wasn't just fashion sense, though the spiral does look pretty cool. It was a public declaration that Konoha and Uzushi-Ogakure were allies, partners, friends. The symbol basically said, "We've got each other's backs" to the entire ninja world. Over the following decades, this alliance worked exactly as intended, Whenever Konoha needed help with sealing techniques, the Uzumaki provided their expertise. They shared their knowledge of Fuinjutsu, and Konoha's sealing practices were heavily influenced by Uzumaki techniques. In return, Konoha shared their collected ninjutsu and developments with Uzushi-Ogakure. It was a legitimate partnership where both sides benefited. The Uzumaki Mask Storage Temple near Konoha houses masks tied to powerful sealing, including the Dead Demon Consuming Seal, a testament to the depth of cooperation between these allied villages. But here's where things get dark. The Uzumaki clan's skill with sealing techniques earned them respect throughout the ninja world, but that respect came with a hefty side order of fear. And in the ninja world, fear plus envy equals danger, faster than you can say, surprise attack. Other nations looked at Uzushi-Ogakure and saw a village full of people who could seal away their most powerful weapons, trap their tailed beasts, and basically neutralize any threat with the right formula drawn on a scroll. The Uzumaki's sealing abilities were so formidable that they became seen as a strategic threat, like having a neighbor who owns every weapon known to mankind and knows exactly how to use them. Uzushi-Ogakure was destroyed by several nations after Kushina moved to Konoha. Multiple villages banded together and launched an attack on the land of whirlpools. The official records don't name which specific villages were involved, but what we know for certain is that it was multiple nations working together, not just one village going rogue. These villages believed that Uzushi-Ogakure was too powerful to be allowed to continue existing. Let that sink in for a second. They didn't attack because the Uzumaki had done something wrong or because they were threatening anyone. They attacked because the Uzumaki were too good at what they did, and that excellence made other villages nervous about their own security. The record does not state what aid, if any, arrived in time. The destruction of Uzushi-Ogakure was brutal and complete. The village was targeted and destroyed, and the survivors of this massacre had to flee for their lives. These survivors went into hiding and scattered across the entire world, taking assumed identities and trying to survive in a ninja world that had just demonstrated it would gang up on you if you got too powerful. Of the known survivors, Nagato ended up being raised in the outskirts of Amegakure, Karin lived in Kusagakure for a time, and Kushina was already safe in Konoha. Each of these survivors had to live with the knowledge that their village, their home, their people had been wiped out not because they were evil or aggressive, but because other villages feared their potential. The truly messed up part is that the alliance between Konoha and Uzushi-Ogakure should have prevented this. Konoha was supposed to be Uzushi-Ogakure's closest ally, their partner, the village that wore their symbol on every uniform. The historical circumstances surrounding the fall remain unclear, but what we know is that Uzushi-Ogakure fell, and the survivors had to make it on their own. This destruction had a ripple effect throughout the ninja world. The Uzumaki clan, once a prominent and respected group, was reduced to a handful of scattered survivors. Most of the clan's secret sealing techniques were lost forever. The comprehensive knowledge that generations of Uzumaki had built up was largely destroyed along with their village. The irony here is absolutely brutal. The Uzumaki developed their sealing techniques to help people, to protect villages, to control dangerous forces like tailed beasts. Their skills were primarily support-oriented, used for creating protective barriers, helping with medical treatment, and providing security. They were the ultimate support clan, and their effectiveness on the battlefield came from keeping people alive and protected, rather than from raw, destructive power. But this very expertise in protection and sealing made them a target. Other villages looked at the Uzumaki's abilities and saw a threat that needed to be eliminated rather than an ally worth having. After the destruction of Uzushi-Ogakure, Konoha continued to wear the Uzumaki emblem on their flak jackets and uniforms, but now it served a different purpose. Instead of symbolizing an active alliance between two thriving villages, it became a memorial, a tribute to fallen allies, a reminder of the friendship that once existed. Every Konoha ninja who wore that spiral symbol was carrying a piece of Uzushi-Ogakure's memory with them, even if many of them had no idea what it actually meant or what had happened to the village it represented. The destruction of Uzushi-Ogakure demonstrates one of the harsh realities of the ninja world. Excellence can be a death sentence. The Uzumaki didn't have some evil plot or world domination scheme. They just happened to be really, really good at sealing techniques, and that mastery made them valuable, but also terrifying to other nations. It's like being so good at your job that instead of getting promoted, you get fired because your boss feels threatened. Except in this case, getting fired meant your entire village getting wiped off the map. Looking at the aftermath, you can see how thoroughly the Uzumaki's destruction impacted the ninja world. Naruto grew up not knowing anything about his clan, his heritage, or the people who shared his last name. The third Hokage gave him his mother's surname Uzumaki instead of his father's name Namikaze, specifically to protect him from Minato's enemies. But this also meant Naruto grew up without any connection to his clan's history. He had no idea that the symbol he wore on his jacket every day represented his own people, his own heritage. A whole clan of red-haired sealing masters who could have taught him techniques and given him a sense of belonging. The Uzumaki clan's story is basically a cautionary tale about how the ninja world operates on fear and power balance, rather than on cooperation and mutual benefit. Two clans were distant relatives who maintained good relationships. They formed an alliance. They supported each other. They shared knowledge and expertise. But when outside pressure came, when other villages decided that one of those clans was too powerful to exist, the entire system collapsed. Uzushigakure was destroyed, the Uzumaki were scattered, and centuries of accumulated knowledge and tradition were lost in what was essentially a coordinated strike based on fear of potential future threats, rather than any actual aggression from the Uzumaki themselves. The survivors who made it out carried the trauma of this betrayal with them. Nagato, who later became Pain, grew up witnessing violence and loss, which shaped his eventual philosophy about making the world feel pain to understand peace. Karin ended up in various villages, never quite belonging anywhere, using her healing abilities to survive. Kushina found safety in Konoha, but she was pulled from her home as a child specifically to become a Jinchuriki, another use for Uzumaki abilities. Even in survival, the Uzumaki couldn't escape being valued primarily for their utility, rather than for themselves as people. The destruction of Uzushigakure also meant that powerful sealing techniques were lost to history. The Uzumaki had been working on sealing formulas and techniques for generations, advancing the art beyond what anyone else had accomplished. When the village fell, most of that knowledge disappeared. The ninja world actually lost a tremendous resource of knowledge and expertise because they feared it too much to let it exist. It's like burning down a library because you're worried someone might learn too much from the books. What makes this even more tragic is that the Uzumaki's abilities could have benefited everyone. Better sealing techniques mean better security, better medical applications, better ways to contain dangerous threats like tailed beasts. Instead of working with the Uzumaki, learning from them, and building a safer ninja world together, the other villages decided elimination was safer than cooperation. They chose fear over partnership, and the ninja world lost something irreplaceable as a result. The Uzumaki clan's destruction happened during an era of war and unrest, a time when villages were constantly competing for power and advantage. In that environment, having a specialty that made you too powerful was apparently more dangerous than being weak. The villages that attacked Uzushigakure saw the sealing techniques as a threat to their own tailed beasts, their own security, their own power. They couldn't control the Uzumaki, couldn't match their sealing expertise, so they removed the threat entirely. It's the nuclear option taken to its logical extreme. For Konoha specifically, the loss of Uzushigakure meant losing their primary source of advanced sealing knowledge. They still had the basics that had been shared over the years, and they had the foundation, but the cutting-edge developments and the deeper secrets died with Uzushigakure. The Uzumaki Mask Storage Temple near Konoha held powerful sealed techniques, including those tied to the dead demon consuming seal, but the full depth of Uzumaki sealing knowledge was scattered with the survivors. The alliance between Konoha and Uzushigakure showed that cooperation between villages was possible and beneficial. For decades, it worked. Both sides prospered. But the destruction of Uzushigakure also revealed the limits of such alliances when faced with coordinated opposition from multiple enemies. It showed that in the ninja world, being allied with a powerful village doesn't necessarily protect you if enough other villages decide you're a problem. The system was broken, operating on mutual fear and power balance rather than on genuine cooperation and shared goals. In the end, the Uzumaki clan's story is about excellence being punished, about how specialization and mastery can make you a target, and about how fear can drive nations to destroy what they don't understand or can't control. The sealing arts that the Uzumaki developed weren't weapons of mass destruction, they were tools for containment, protection, and security. But in a world where power equals survival, being the best at something meant becoming a threat that needed to be eliminated. The Uzumaki clan was destroyed not for what they did, but for what they could potentially do. And that fear-based decision cost the ninja world a tremendous amount of knowledge, expertise, and potential for positive development. The scattered survivors carried on as best they could, but the clan, as an organized force, as a village, as a center of sealing knowledge, was gone forever, destroyed by the very qualities that made them remarkable in the first place. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Tobirama's inventions, Edo Tensei, Flying Thunder God, Shadow Clone, and why he formed the police force. Tobirama's inventions, Edo Tensei, Flying Thunder God, Shadow Clone, and why he formed the police force. Tobirama Senju was the second Hokage of Konohagakure and the younger brother of Hashirama Senju, the village's founder. Tobirama was a genius who invented numerous techniques that shaped the entire ninja world. He created several jutsu that were so powerful and dangerous that he immediately classified them as forbidden techniques. He also established many of the institutions that became standard across all hidden villages. Tobirama grew up during the Warring States period. He and his brothers spent their childhoods on battlefields fighting rival clans, particularly the Uchiha. After his younger brothers Kawarama and Itama died in this constant warfare, Tobirama and Hashirama agreed that the system needed to change. They needed hidden villages where children would stop dying in wars. This eventually led to the founding of Konoha, when the Senju and Uchiha clans made peace and established the first shinobi village. Even after peace was established, Tobirama never fully trusted the Uchiha clan, and this distrust influenced many of his decisions as Hokage. When Hashirama died, the title of Hokage passed to Tobirama. He spent his time as second Hokage, working to build the institutions that made the village system function. He created the academy, where young ninja would be trained, established the Chunin exams as a way for shinobi to prove their skills and advance in rank, formed the ANBU as a special forces unit for secret missions, and built the infrastructure that allowed Konoha to operate as an organized military village rather than just a collection of clans living in the same area. What cemented Tobirama's reputation as a genius were the techniques he invented, some of which became central to the Naruto series. The Edo Tensei, officially called the Summoning Impure World Reincarnation, is one of the strongest and most morally questionable jutsu in the entire series. Tobirama created this forbidden technique at some point during his life. It allows the user to summon the souls of dead people from the Pure Land and bind them to living human sacrifices, bringing the dead back to life as immortal beings that the summoner can control. The reincarnated people have access to all their abilities from when they were alive, they have unlimited chakra, and they regenerate from most injuries. They are immortal puppets with all their original skills intact. The requirements for Edo Tensei are severe. You need DNA from the person you want to revive. Their soul must be in the Pure Land and not sealed away somewhere. And you need a living human sacrifice whose body will be used as a vessel for the resurrected soul. Once someone is brought back, the summoner can control them by inserting special talismans attached to kunai into their brain, which allows for varying degrees of control over the reincarnated person. Tobirama branded this technique as kinjutsu, a forbidden jutsu. Immediately after creating it, he recognized that the requirements were horrific and the potential for abuse was massive. His version of the technique had major flaws since the reincarnated souls only had a fraction of their original power, and he could only control a limited number at once. The technique remained mostly forgotten until Orochimaru discovered it decades later and improved on it, bringing the reincarnated shinobi much closer to their full strength. Kabuto Yakushi later perfected it even further, making it the primary weapon used in the Fourth Shinobi World War. When Tobirama was reincarnated himself by Orochimaru and saw how his technique was being used, he expressed disbelief that the jutsu he devised would be used so casually. Orochimaru told him that he should not have created the technique in the first place, and that many of Tobirama's policies and jutsu ended up causing problems down the line. Madara Uchiha, when he was reincarnated and fighting against the allied shinobi forces, thanked Tobirama for inventing the technique, that made his return possible. The shadow clone technique is the jutsu that became synonymous with Naruto Uzumaki, even though Tobirama created it. The shadow clone technique allows the user to create one or more physically real copies of themselves. These are not illusions like the basic clone technique that Academy students learn. Shadow clones are solid. They can interact with the physical world, they can fight, and they have their own chakra reserves. When you create shadow clones, your chakra is divided evenly between yourself and all your clones. Creating one clone gives it half your chakra. Creating two clones gives each of them a third. Creating hundreds of clones spreads your chakra very thin. This chakra division is why Tobirama declared the shadow clone technique, and especially the multiple shadow clone technique, as forbidden jutsu. Creating too many shadow clones can lead to rapid chakra depletion, and if a shinobi's chakra is completely depleted, they die. Most shinobi, even skilled jonin, can only safely maintain a few shadow clones at once. Kakashi Hatake mentioned that even maintaining 4 clones simultaneously is an unachievable feat for most ninja. The third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, could only summon 2 shadow clones during his fight with Orochimaru during the Konoha Crush arc, and he was highly skilled. Naruto Uzumaki is the major exception to this rule. He uses the multiple shadow clone technique constantly throughout the series, creating hundreds or even thousands of clones without any problem. There are 2 reasons he can do this. First, he is an Uzumaki, and the Uzumaki clan is known for having massive chakra reserves and incredible life force. Second, he is the Jinchuriki of the 9-tailed fox, Kurama, which means he has access to the tailed beast's virtually unlimited chakra reserves. With those 2 factors combined, Naruto can use shadow clones extensively without worrying about dying from chakra exhaustion. For him, the forbidden technique became his signature move. A side benefit of shadow clones that Kakashi discovered is that they can accelerate training. When a shadow clone is dispelled, all of its experiences and memories return to the original. If you train with one shadow clone for 1 hour, you get 2 hours of training experience once the clone disperses. Naruto used this to compress training that would normally take months into just a few days when he was learning the Rasen Shuriken. This only works for Naruto because creating hundreds of clones requires massive chakra reserves that almost nobody else has, and the combined mental fatigue from all those experiences would overwhelm normal people. The Flying Thunder God technique, also known as Flying Raijin or Hiraishin, is a space-time ninjutsu that Tobirama originally developed. This is the technique most people associate with Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, even though Tobirama created it first. The Flying Thunder God allows the user to mark a target with a special technique formula and then teleport instantly to that marked location whenever they want. The mark can be applied to almost anything through brief physical contact, including people, objects, or surrounding features. Once something is marked, the formula remains there permanently and cannot be removed. It stays even after the person who applied it dies. To use the technique, the user enters a dimensional void that instantaneously transports them to the location of any seal they have created. There is no limit to how many targets can be marked, and the user can teleport between marked locations at will. Tobirama was known as the fastest shinobi of his era because of this technique. He would mark opponents during close combat and then teleport directly into their personal space to attack from impossible angles. The technique was specifically designed to counter the Uchiha clan's Sharingan, which could normally track and predict enemy movements. Since the Flying Thunder God is instantaneous teleportation, even the Sharingan could not keep up with it. Tobirama's version of the technique had limitations. He could only maintain a certain number of technique formulas at once, and they would only last for limited periods of time. So he generally had to create his markings during battle itself rather than setting them up beforehand. Years later, Minato Namikaze learned the technique from Tobirama's teachings and perfected it, refining the ability to traverse space-time and improving its effectiveness. Minato's technique formula looks different from Tobirama's, reflecting the improvements he made. Minato could create and maintain many more formulas simultaneously, and his markings were permanent unless physically destroyed or unless he chose to remove them himself. Minato's most famous tactic was throwing special kunai marked with his formula all over the battlefield, creating dozens of teleportation points he could jump between instantly. This made him unpredictable and difficult to fight against. His improvements to the technique earned him the title Yellow Flash of Konoha and a reputation as the fastest shinobi alive. The technique became so strongly associated with Minato that when Tobirama was reincarnated during the Fourth Shinobi World War and saw Naruto using abilities he assumed were Minato's, he was frustrated that Naruto did not recognize him as the original creator of the Flying Thunder God technique. The most controversial thing Tobirama created was not a jutsu but an organization. The Konoha military police force was designed to maintain law and order in the village, monitoring fellow shinobi and enforcing rules. What made it controversial was that Tobirama gave control of the entire police force to the Uchiha clan. On the surface, this looked like a gesture of trust and good faith between the Senju and Uchiha clans, showing that the Uchiha were valued members of the village who were being given an important responsibility. Tobirama stated his intention was to keep the Uchiha's emotions in check and have the village benefit from their dedication to duty. The police force's purpose was to maintain law in the village, making the people feel safe and reducing crime rates. The Uchiha, with their Sharingan and their skills, seemed like natural choices to lead such an organization. The symbol of the police force was a 4-point star with the crest of the Uchiha clan embedded in the center, and members wore standard Konoha attire, but with the police force symbol on their shoulders instead of the regular Uzushio Gakure symbol. The reality of the situation was more complicated. The police force was headquartered in a remote part of the village, next to a prison, physically distancing the Uchiha from the village center. More importantly, the police force position prevented Uchiha from holding any positions of real influence within Konoha's government or military command structure. They were given authority to enforce the law and monitor other shinobi, but they had no power in actually governing the village or making decisions about its future. The police force did not even have the authority to arrest ANBU members without a warrant, since ANBU reported directly to the Hokage, which created tension between the two groups. Tobi, later revealed to be Obito Uchiha, believed that the police force was a method of ostracizing the Uchiha from the village, segregating them from taking part in the actual governing of Konoha. Some Uchiha clan members, like Setsuna Uchiha, also believed this was the true motive behind the organization and tried to rebel as a result. When Orochimaru reincarnated Tobirama and they had a conversation about his policies, Orochimaru specifically pointed out that appointing the Uchiha to the police force was one of the policies that caused problems later. Although Tobirama created the Konoha military police force with the intention of pacifying the Uchiha clan, it only exacerbated their feelings of marginalization and cut them off from positions of influence in Konoha. This growing dissatisfaction festered for decades. When it came time to select the fourth Hokage after the Third Shinobi World War, many within the Uchiha clan believed their leader Fugaku should be chosen. But Fugaku was not even considered for the position, and the title went to Minato. The clan's supporters were outraged, and while Fugaku resisted their calls to protest, the resentment continued to build. This dissatisfaction eventually led directly to the Uchiha planning a coup attempt against Konoha's leadership, which in turn led to the Uchiha clan massacre, where Itachi Uchiha was forced to kill his own clan to prevent a civil war. Tobirama's creation of the police force, intended as either a gesture of trust or a way to keep the Uchiha under control, contributed to one of the most tragic events in Konoha's history. The clan was given responsibility and prestige but no real power, which made them feel isolated and excluded rather than valued and integrated. Tobirama's creations shared a common pattern. He was a genius who invented techniques that shaped the entire ninja world. The Shadow Clone technique became Naruto's signature move, and was used by countless ninja. The Flying Thunder God became the basis for Minato's reputation and fighting style. The Edo Tensei, despite being forbidden, played a central role in multiple major story arcs, including the Konoha Crush and the entire Fourth Shinobi World War. The institutions he built, like the Academy, Chunin, exams, and ANBU, became standard across all hidden villages. But many of his creations also had dark consequences. The Edo Tensei required human sacrifice and violated the natural order of life and death. It was used by villains like Orochimaru and Kabuto to wage war and cause massive destruction. The Shadow Clone technique was dangerous enough to kill most users through chakra depletion. And the police force, whether Tobirama intended it this way or not, contributed to the marginalization of the Uchiha clan and planted seeds for the conflicts that would emerge years later. Tobirama's distrust of the Uchiha clan colored many of his decisions. He specifically created techniques like the Flying Thunder God and Shadow Clone to counter the Uchiha's Sharingan abilities. He gave them the police force, which isolated them from real power. He never fully trusted them, even after peace was established. When he was reincarnated and spoke with Sasuke Uchiha about the clan's history, he explained his understanding of the Uchiha and their curse of hatred. But his explanations revealed his belief that the Uchiha were inherently dangerous and needed to be controlled or contained. Tobirama was trying to protect the village and build systems that would make it stable and prosperous. He worked to create the institutions that made the hidden village system function, instead of just being a collection of clans in the same location. He was realistic about the challenges of maintaining peace and tried to implement practical solutions, but his solutions often involved control, surveillance, and containment rather than genuine integration and trust. The ANBU operated in secret. The Chunin exams tested ninja through dangerous competitions. The police force monitored fellow shinobi, and his most powerful techniques were either forbidden or required morally questionable sacrifices. When Tobirama was reincarnated during the Fourth Shinobi World War, he fought alongside his brother Hashirama, the third Hokage Hiruzen, and the fourth Hokage Minato against Obito and Madara. During these fights, he used his Flying Thunder God to teleport people around the battlefield, coordinating with Minato, who used the same technique. He provided tactical support and worked to stop the Ten Tails. At one point, he even contemplated using his own Edo Tensei technique on Madara to ask him questions, showing that even the creator of the technique recognized its utility despite its moral problems. After Kaguya was sealed and the war was won, Tobirama and the other Hokage were returned to the Pure Land by the Sage of the Six Paths. As his soul ascended, Tobirama encouraged Hashirama to entrust the future to Sasuke and Naruto, accepting that the next generation would have to solve the problems that his generation had created or failed to resolve. His legacy remained mixed, a brilliant inventor and administrator who built the foundations of the modern shinobi world, but also someone whose distrust, forbidden techniques, and attempts at control contributed to decades of conflict and tragedy. Tobirama Senju created some of the most powerful and influential techniques in the Naruto series, but he also immediately recognized that many of them were too dangerous to use freely. He marked them as forbidden, as kinjutsu, trying to limit the damage they could cause. But forbidden techniques were discovered and used anyway, especially by people with bad intentions. The Edo Tensei was perfected by villains. The Shadow Clone technique was stolen and used by a young Naruto who barely understood what he was doing. The Flying Thunder God was learned and improved by Minato. And the police force, which was supposed to be a sign of trust, became a symbol of marginalization that contributed to the Uchiha clan massacre. Tobirama was a genius who invented techniques that changed the world, built institutions that all hidden villages adopted, and tried to create systems that would keep peace. But his solutions often created new problems or made existing tensions worse. He was pragmatic, brilliant, distrustful, and complicated. His inventions were used by heroes and villains alike. His policies had consequences that echoed for generations, and his legacy includes both incredible innovations and tragic failures. The second Hokage left his mark on the ninja world in ways both good and bad, creating techniques so powerful they had to be forbidden, and systems so flawed they contributed to the very conflicts they were meant to prevent. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to White Zetsu Origin, Victims of Infinite Tsukuyomi, from the First Great Tree Event. White Zetsu Origin, Victims of Infinite Tsukuyomi, from the First Great Tree Event. White Zetsu are creatures in Naruto that appear to be artificial beings, but have a much darker origin. These pale, plant-like humanoids were actually regular human beings who were transformed by Kaguya Otsutsuki through the Infinite Tsukuyomi. This transformation occurred over 1,000 years before the main events of the series. In ancient times, before ninja villages existed, and before the Sage of Six Paths divided his power, Kaguya Otsutsuki came to Earth from another dimension. The God Tree was already present on Earth, having arrived from a meteorite. People treated it as a sacred object, not knowing it was slowly draining natural energy from the planet. Every 1,000 years, this God Tree would produce a special fruit called the chakra fruit. Humans were forbidden from eating it. Kaguya broke this rule. She ate the chakra fruit and became the first person on Earth to have chakra. This made her incredibly powerful. She ended wars and brought peace for a time. People saw her as a goddess. She fell in love with a man named Tenji and had 2 sons with him, Hagoromo and Hamura. These boys were born with chakra naturally, inherited from their mother. Kaguya became paranoid about her clan, the Otsutsuki. The Otsutsuki travel through dimensions in pairs, planting god trees on different worlds to harvest their chakra. When Kaguya ate the fruit herself, instead of preparing it for her clan, she betrayed them. She knew they would eventually come to Earth looking for her and would want to punish her and take Earth's chakra. Kaguya decided she needed an army of soldiers who would never question orders, never feel fear, and never stop fighting. Kaguya used the infinite Tsukuyomi for the first time to create this army. This technique is the ultimate genjutsu in the Naruto series. To cast it, you need a Rinne Sharingan, a special eye that combines the power of the Sharingan and Rinnegan. You reflect this eye off the moon, and the light shines across the entire world. Everyone who sees this light gets trapped in the genjutsu immediately. Their eyes show the Rinnegan pattern, and they freeze in place, unable to move. Once people are trapped in the infinite Tsukuyomi, they begin dreaming. They experience their perfect world, their deepest desires fulfilled. They are happy in these dreams and do not know anything is wrong. But while they are dreaming, their physical bodies undergo a transformation. The god tree's roots come up from the ground and wrap around them, cocooning them in bark. These roots connect them directly to the god tree itself. The god tree then begins feeding on them. Over the course of years, the tree drains the life energy from these people. It takes their chakra, their personality, their memories, everything that makes them who they are. The process is gradual and does not happen overnight. Eventually, these humans are reduced to shells of their former selves. Their defining features fade away. Their individuality vanishes. They transform into white Zetsu. The victims are trapped, experiencing what they believe is their perfect life, while their real bodies are hanging in tree roots, slowly being drained of everything that makes them human. They are not dead, but they are not alive in a normal sense. They are being converted into living weapons without knowing it is happening. The transformation took years. Over this time, the victims morphed into white Zetsu forms. They became pale, plant-like humanoid creatures. Their heads became bulbous with sharp mouths. Their eyes turned into simple black dots. They all looked identical, lacking any individuality. They could merge with the earth, travel through soil, and emerge halfway from the ground. They did not need to sleep or breathe. They were no longer human. While the god tree converts people into white Zetsu, it also produces a new chakra fruit. This is the purpose of the process from the Otsutsuki perspective. You plant the god tree on a world with living beings. You trap those beings in infinite Tsukuyomi. You feed them to the tree. The tree grows a fruit full of their collective chakra. You eat the fruit and become powerful. Then you move to the next dimension and repeat the process. Kaguya created an army of 100,000 white Zetsu this way. 100,000 people who used to have names, families, and lives were all converted into obedient soldiers. The anime shows that Kaguya's first use of the infinite Tsukuyomi was not perfect. Some people, like a man named Haori, died instead of transforming into white Zetsu. She had to perfect the technique before successfully creating her army. Kaguya needed this army to fight against her own clan members if they came to Earth. She was preparing for war against the Otsutsuki. She took thousands of humans and turned them into weapons to fight in a conflict that had nothing to do with them. These people were living their lives on Earth and were drafted into an alien war without knowing it. Eventually, Kaguya's sons, Hagoromo and Hamura, discovered what their mother had done. They saw how she was using the infinite Tsukuyomi to enslave people. They realized she had merged herself with the god tree to take back the chakra she had given them. She became the Ten Tails, a massive monster. The brothers fought their mother and eventually sealed her. They turned her into the demonic statue of the Outer Path and trapped her inside the moon. When Kaguya was sealed, the white Zetsu came to reside inside the demonic statue as well. The specifics of how this happened are not clearly explained in the series, but all these transformed humans ended up stored inside what used to be the Ten Tails. They stayed there for centuries, trapped inside this statue, sealed away in the moon. Much later in history, Madara Uchiha, after his battle with Hashirama Senju at the Valley of the End, awakened the Rinnegan. With this eye, he summoned the demonic statue of the outer path down from the moon. Madara was trying to survive beyond his natural lifespan, so he used the statue's chakra to keep himself alive. He cultivated Hashirama Senju's DNA, which he had stolen during their fight, into a massive flowering tree in a cave beneath the mountain's graveyard. He connected himself to this tree so he could continuously receive the statue's chakra. Black Zetsu, who everyone thought was Madara's creation or Madara's will made manifest, was actually Kaguya's will. Black Zetsu had been working for centuries to bring Kaguya back. It manipulated Indra, influenced Madara, and orchestrated countless events across generations to eventually resurrect Kaguya. One of the things Black Zetsu did was pull the white Zetsu out of the demonic statue. Madara did not know this. He thought the white Zetsu were his creation. He believed they were artificial humans created by combining the demonic statue's chakra with Hashirama's DNA through his experiments. He thought he was making these creatures, but he was wrong. Black Zetsu was extracting white Zetsu that already existed, victims from Kaguya's infinite Tsukuyomi from over 1,000 years ago. Madara never realized these creatures had a completely different origin. Black Zetsu took one of the white Zetsu, whose body was not fully formed, and infused itself with that white Zetsu. This created the Zetsu, seen in most of the series, the black and white character that appears to be one person but is actually two entities sharing a body. The white Zetsu half could split off to create a separate body, and they could communicate telepathically with each other. Madara then infused this white Zetsu with Hashirama Senju's DNA. This gave white Zetsu the ability to use wood release, though on a much weaker scale than Hashirama himself. It also gave white Zetsu healing abilities. White Zetsu could heal nearly any wound without using hand seals, and could graft parts of its body onto other people if they lost limbs, giving them healing capabilities. This is how Obito's body was repaired when he was crushed by rocks. White Zetsu wrapped around him and kept him alive. Over time, using the demonic statue's chakra, the white Zetsu propagated and multiplied. By the time of the Fourth Shinobi World War, there were thousands of fully developed white Zetsu stored in a large pool of water beneath the roots of Madara's flowering tree. Obito Uchiha used them as a massive attack force against the allied shinobi forces. 100,000 white Zetsu made up the majority of Akatsuki's military numbers during the war. The white Zetsu army had special abilities. Because they were modified with Hashirama's DNA, they could use wood release techniques. They could merge with the ground and travel vast distances unseen, making them effective spies. They could use the substitute technique to impersonate members of the allied shinobi forces, infiltrating their ranks and ambushing them from within. They could take on the properties of nearby materials. In the anime, when they fought on one battlefield, they absorbed characteristics of special poisonous red soil and used it to expel large quantities of poisonous smoke. White Zetsu had a significant weakness. Direct contact with someone who has a powerful life force causes white Zetsu to turn into trees. When Naruto and Ninetales chakra mode touched them, they would transform into trees and stop functioning. Their genetic structure, being plant-based with Hashirama's DNA mixed in, made them vulnerable to overwhelming life energy. The truth about white Zetsu's origin was hidden for the entire series. Madara never knew he was using Kaguya's army. Obito did not know. The allied shinobi forces had no idea they were fighting against what used to be humans from over 1,000 years ago. When Shizune and Sakura Haruno performed autopsies on white Zetsu bodies during the war, they discovered their DNA was very similar to Hashirama's, but they thought these were artificial creations. The truth was revealed near the very end, during the fight against Kaguya herself. White Zetsu were originally humans victimized by the infinite Tsukuyomi. Madara learned this truth from Black Zetsu right before Black Zetsu betrayed him and turned him into Kaguya's vessel. Madara had spent decades planning and fighting while thinking he had created these soldiers. He discovered they were made by someone else, for someone else's purpose, and he had been used the entire time. When the war ended and Naruto and Sasuke sealed Kaguya away, they used the Rinnegan and the chakra of all nine-tailed beasts to break the infinite Tsukuyomi that Madara had cast. Everyone trapped in that genjutsu was freed and returned to normal, but the white Zetsu from Kaguya's original infinite Tsukuyomi could not be saved. They had been transformed too long ago, over too many years. There was nothing human left in them to restore. When the infinite Tsukuyomi ended, the white Zetsu that were transformed from recent victims withered away, but the ancient white Zetsu from Kaguya's time could not be reversed. In Boruto, Naruto Next Generations, it is revealed that some white Zetsu survived and are found residing in certain secluded locations. They are living remnants of humans from over 1,000 years ago, with no original form to return to. The white Zetsu situation represents one of the darker aspects of Naruto. These were regular humans living in ancient times. They probably had jobs, families, and friends. They had dreams and goals. One day, Kaguya decided she needed an army, so she trapped them all in an illusion and fed them to a tree over the course of years until there was nothing left of who they used to be. Nobody in the series knew this happened until near the very end. The white Zetsu themselves do not remember being human. Their personalities were drained away. They act like simple-minded creatures, often childish, commenting on things that happen around them but showing no depth of emotion or memory of their past lives. One white Zetsu that was paired with black Zetsu seemed friendly at times and had simple observations about situations, but there was nothing left in him that connected to whoever he used to be as a human. The story of white Zetsu is about the cost of war and the cruelty of using people as tools. Kaguya needed weapons to fight her clan, so she made weapons out of people. She did not ask them or give them a choice. She took them and converted them. Madara, centuries later, used these same converted people as expendable soldiers in his war, never knowing they were once human. The white Zetsu fought and died in the Fourth Shinobi World War as disposable troops, and most of the people fighting against them had no idea they were fighting the transformed remains of humans from ancient history. These humans were not killed quickly. They were slowly converted into something else over years while dreaming. They experienced happiness in their dreams, even as their bodies were being mutated and their personalities destroyed. By the time the process finished, there was nothing left to mourn because the person who existed before was completely gone, replaced by something that looked vaguely human but had none of the qualities that made them who they were. That is the true origin of white Zetsu. Not artificial beings created in a lab, not some special jutsu that generated life from nothing. They were people. Thousands of people who got caught in Kaguya Otsutsuki's infinite Tsukuyomi over 1,000 years ago and were slowly fed to the god tree until they became living weapons. Almost nobody in the story ever knew this truth, and the white Zetsu themselves do not remember enough to tell anyone who they used to be. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Jugo's clan and natural energy, the real source of the cursed seal enzyme. Jugo's clan and natural energy, the real source of the cursed seal enzyme. Jugo's clan is one of those weird mysteries in Naruto where we know what they can do but barely anything about who they actually are. We don't know their clan name. We don't know where they came from originally. We don't even know if there are any other members besides Jugo still alive. What we do know is that they have one of the most dangerous abilities in the entire series, and Orochimaru took that ability and turned it into something he could give to other people. That's the cursed seal. Every single person who got branded with one of Orochimaru's marks, from Sasuke to Anko to the Sound Four, they all have Jugo's clan to thank for that power and all the problems that came with it. Let's start with what makes Jugo's clan special. They have a Kekkei Genkai, which means a bloodline ability passed down through genetics. But this particular ability is really different from most Kekkei Genkai in Naruto. The Uchiha have their Sharingan eyes, the Hyuga have their Byakugan, the Kaguya clan had bone manipulation. Normal bloodline abilities that you activate and control. Jugo's clan has something that never stops working. Their bodies constantly, passively, automatically absorb natural energy from their surroundings. They can't turn it off. They can't control when it happens. It just happens all the time, every single day, whether they want it to or not. Now, natural energy is a big deal in the Naruto world. It's the energy that exists everywhere in nature, in the ground, in the air, in living things. Most people can't access it at all. The people who can are called sages, and they have to go through intense training to learn how to gather natural energy safely. Naruto trained with the toads at Mount Myoboku to learn Sage Mode. Jiraiya did the same thing. Kabuto trained at the Ryuchi Cave with the snakes. These places teach you how to sit perfectly still, absorb natural energy, and balance it with your own chakra to create Senjutsu chakra. Get the balance wrong and you turn into a stone statue. It's dangerous and difficult and takes a ton of practice. Jugo's clan skips all of that. They absorb natural energy without any training. They don't need to sit still. They don't need a teacher. They don't need to balance anything. Their bodies just do it instinctively. Sounds amazing, right? Like winning the genetic lottery? Here's the catch. They can't stop it. And that constant absorption of natural energy comes with a really nasty side effect. It makes them mentally unstable. They get sudden, uncontrollable urges to kill. They go berserk. They lose their minds and attack everything around them, friend or enemy, without being able to stop themselves. Imagine living like that. You're just going about your day, and suddenly you feel this overwhelming rage building up inside you. You can't control it. You can't reason with it. You can't talk yourself down. The natural energy keeps flowing into your body, and your mind snaps under the pressure. You transform, and you attack, and you kill, and when you come back to yourself, you have to deal with what you did while you weren't in control. That was Jugo's entire life before he met Orochimaru. But the clan's ability doesn't stop at just absorbing natural energy. Their bodies also secrete special fluids. These fluids react when they come into contact with Senjutsu chakra, which is what you get when natural energy mixes with regular chakra. These special fluids allow clan members to transform parts of their bodies. They can change their appearance. They can grow weapons out of their arms. They can shift their skin color. They can alter their eyes. The transformations vary from person to person and even from use to use. Every time they transform, it might look different depending on what they need in that moment. Jugo himself showed tons of different transformations throughout the series. He turned his left arm into a piston-like ram to make his punches stronger. He changed it into a massive axe blade to block Suigetsu's sword. He created arm boosters to throw his teammates long distances or deliver more powerful hits. He grew jet boosters from his back to fly. He sprouted multiple arms. He could shrink his body down to a smaller size. The variety of transformations seems almost unlimited, controlled by whatever his body decides it needs at that moment. And here's something interesting. Unlike people who train for Sage Mode, Jugo's clan doesn't face the risk of turning into stone from having too much natural energy. Normal people who absorb too much natural energy or can't balance it properly get petrified. They literally turn into stone statues. But Jugo's clan seems immune to that particular danger. Their bodies can handle massive amounts of natural energy without petrifying. The natural energy they gather can be temporarily balanced within them, and they can even safely transfer their accumulated Senjutsu chakra to another person through chakra transfer techniques. But that mental instability thing is a huge problem. Jugo himself destroyed an entire village and killed everyone in it during one of his rages. People started calling him Jugo of the Scales, because anything could tip the balance and send him into a murderous frenzy. He hated what he was. He hated that he couldn't control himself. He hated that he was dangerous to everyone around him. So he started hiding in caves, isolating himself from people, hoping that if he stayed away from everyone, he wouldn't hurt anyone. Then he met Kimimaro. Kimimaro was the last survivor of the Kaguya clan, another person with a unique bloodline ability. For some reason, Kimimaro had an effect on Jugo. Maybe it was because Kimimaro was strong enough to handle Jugo even when he went berserk. Maybe it was just because Kimimaro treated him like a person instead of a monster. Whatever the reason, Jugo started following Kimimaro. He felt more stable around him. When Kimimaro became one of Orochimaru's followers, Jugo followed him there. Jugo voluntarily became one of Orochimaru's test subjects. He went to Orochimaru hoping that the Sannin could cure him of his fits of rage. He wanted to be fixed. He wanted to be normal. He wanted to stop killing people against his will. So he let Orochimaru experiment on him, study his body, run tests, extract samples. And Orochimaru, being Orochimaru, was absolutely fascinated by what he found. Orochimaru discovered that Jugo's body has this innate ability to passively absorb natural energy. He saw that it also secretes special bodily fluids that react to Senjutsu chakra and cause immediate physical alterations. These fluids give the body controlled shape-shifting qualities and greatly enhanced physical capabilities. Orochimaru studied this for who knows how long, doing experiment after experiment, trying to figure out exactly how Jugo's ability worked and where it came from. His research led him to the Ryuchi Cave. This is one of the 3 great sage regions, along with Mount Myoboku, where the toads live, and the place where the slugs are. The Ryuchi Cave is home to the White Snake Sage and all the snakes who can teach senjutsu. Orochimaru's investigation of Jugo's clan power pointed him toward this place, and that's where he learned to use senjutsu himself. He trained there, trying to achieve Sage Mode like Jiraiya and Naruto would later do at Mount Myoboku. But here's the problem. Orochimaru couldn't actually achieve Sage Mode. His body wasn't strong enough. He didn't have the chakra reserves needed to properly balance natural energy with his own chakra. He couldn't handle it. Most people in the Naruto world can't achieve Sage Mode because it requires a naturally massive chakra reserve and incredible chakra control. Orochimaru had the control, but not the reserves, at least not in his original body. And since he was constantly body hopping to stay immortal, he never had a body that was stable enough or strong enough to master Sage Mode properly. So Orochimaru did what Orochimaru does best. He found a shortcut. He couldn't use Sage Mode himself, but he could create something similar. He isolated the enzyme from Jugo's special bodily fluids. This enzyme is what triggers the transformations and the power boost in Jugo's clan. Orochimaru took that enzyme and mixed it with his own senjutsu chakra. The result was something he could inject into other people. That's the Cursed Seal. Every cursed seal that Orochimaru created contains two things: the enzyme extracted from Jugo's body and Orochimaru's own senjutsu chakra. This is why the cursed seal transformations look similar to Jugo's transformations. When someone activates their cursed seal at level 2, they go through what's called a cursed seal transformation. Their eyes change to yellow irises with black sclerae. Their skin color changes, their hair gets longer, they grow extra limbs or wings or other body modifications. It looks different for each person, but the style of transformation is clearly similar to what Jugo does. That's because it's literally using the same biological mechanism that Jugo's clan has naturally. The difference is that Orochimaru's version is more refined. Jugo and his clan members experience uncontrollable rage because they're constantly absorbing natural energy and have no way to control it or release it except through violence. The Cursed Seal doesn't have that same deficiency, at least not to the same degree. People with Cursed Seals can activate them and deactivate them. They have some control over when to use the power. They don't go randomly berserk just from existing, though the Cursed Seal does eat away at their mind and personality if they use it too much, which causes its own problems. Another big difference: Jugo can perform unlimited different transformations. He can change what advantages his form gives him to fit whatever situation he's in. He's not locked into one specific transformation. But Cursed Seal users generally have one specific transformation when they hit level 2. Sasuke's Cursed Seal of Heaven gives him hand-like wings and gray skin. Kimimara's Cursed Seal of Earth gives him a tail and different markings. The Sound Four each had their own unique level 2 forms. They couldn't change between different transformations like Jugo can. They were stuck with whatever form their particular Cursed Seal gave them. Orochimaru applied Cursed Seals by biting people. He had sharp fangs and an extendable neck, so getting close enough to bite someone wasn't too difficult for him. The bite injects the enzyme and senjutsu chakra into the victim's body. The seal then appears somewhere near the puncture wound, usually on the neck, but sometimes on other body parts. The design of the seal varies from person to person. Almost everyone has a unique symbol. The seal spreads when activated, with the marks replicating and spreading across the body. That's level 1. Full body coverage plus physical transformation is level 2. Here's the scary part. Applying a cursed seal has about a 10% survival rate. Orochimaru established this through extensive practice. 9 out of 10 people who receive a cursed seal die from it. Their bodies can't handle the foreign senjutsu chakra and the enzyme. The seal forcibly draws chakra from them, and the strain kills them. Anko Mitarashi was one of 10 people who received cursed seals in Orochimaru's first batch of test subjects. She was the only one who survived. That's where the 1 in 10 survival rate comes from. If you survive the initial application, you wake up with the level 1 seal activated and probably really angry because the seal influences your emotions. You also have a fragment of Orochimaru's consciousness embedded in the seal. That's right, every cursed seal contains a piece of Orochimaru's mind. This lets him observe events through anyone branded with a seal. It lets him influence them, making them more susceptible to his words and his will. And most importantly, it means Orochimaru can never truly die as long as at least one cursed seal exists somewhere. He can be revived through the evil releasing method using the seal and a piece of his DNA. The cursed seals also serve another purpose: preparing potential host bodies. Orochimaru gave seals to people he thought might be suitable for his immortality technique, where he transfers his soul into someone else's body. The cursed seal helps make the body more compatible with his chakra since it's already mixed in there. Sasuke received the cursed seal of heaven partly as a test of his abilities and partly to prepare him as Orochimaru's next vessel. Now, anyone who survives receiving a cursed seal becomes compatible with Jugo. This is important. It means Jugo can transplant his flesh to them, and their body will accept it. He did this with Sasuke during the fight against Killer Bee. Sasuke was injured, and Jugo gave him some of his flesh to heal him. This wouldn't work on just anyone. But because Sasuke had the cursed seal, which contains enzymes from Jugo's body, Sasuke's body recognized Jugo's flesh as compatible and accepted the transplant. Jugo can also transfer natural energy directly to people. During the Fourth Shinobi World War, when Sasuke was fighting against Obito, Jugo transferred some of his accumulated natural energy into Sasuke. Sasuke then channeled it into his Susanoo, creating what Orochimaru called a Sage Jutsu Susanoo. The Susanoo was empowered with Senjutsu chakra, making it strong enough to damage Obito, even though Obito was the Ten Tails Jinchuriki at the time. This only worked because Sasuke's body had been prepared by years of having the cursed seal. His chakra system was already familiar with Senjutsu chakra from Jugo's enzymes. Kabuto Yakushi later injected himself with Jugo's DNA as part of his quest to emulate Orochimaru and find his true self. Kabuto experimented on himself with biological material from tons of Orochimaru's test subjects, and Jugo was one of them. Having Jugo's ability to passively absorb natural energy helped Kabuto when he went to the Ryuchi cave to train in Sage mode. He didn't have to stay perfectly still like other people because he could keep absorbing natural energy even while moving. This helped him learn Snake Sage mode and become one of the most dangerous opponents in the Fourth Shinobi World War. The interesting thing about Kabuto is that he got Jugo's ability to absorb natural energy, but he didn't show the side effects. He didn't experience the mental instability or the uncontrollable rages that plague Jugo and his clan members. Maybe it's because Kabuto only took part of the ability through genetic modification, rather than being born with it. Maybe it's because he also had proper Sage mode training to balance the natural energy. Maybe it's because he had so many other DNA samples mixed into his body that it somehow balanced out. The series doesn't explain exactly why Kabuto avoided the rage issue, but he clearly did. So, to sum up the whole connection, Jugo's clan has a natural ability to passively absorb natural energy, which causes transformations and mental instability. Orochimaru studied Jugo's body and discovered the special enzyme that triggers these transformations. He isolated that enzyme from Jugo's bodily fluids and mixed it with his own Senjutsu chakra. This mixture became the basis for all of Orochimaru's cursed seals. Every person who received a cursed seal, from Sasuke to the Sound Four to the random prisoners in Orochimaru's hideouts, they all have a piece of Jugo's clan ability artificially inserted into their bodies. The cursed seals are basically Orochimaru's attempt to mass-produce a watered-down version of Jugo's clan Kekkei Genkai. Jugo's clan gets the full ability naturally and can't control it. Cursed seal users get a controlled, limited version that they can turn on and off. Jugo can perform unlimited different transformations based on what he needs. Cursed seal users get one specific transformation per seal. Jugo is constantly absorbing natural energy. Cursed seal users only access Senjutsu chakra when they activate the seal. Jugo has massive chakra reserves because of his constant natural energy absorption. Cursed seal users get a temporary chakra boost when the seal is active. The whole thing is kind of tragic when you think about it. Jugo came to Orochimaru hoping to be cured of his condition. Instead, Orochimaru used Jugo's body as a research subject to create a technique that he could spread to other people. Jugo never got cured. He still experiences those uncontrollable rages. He still has to isolate himself or rely on strong people like Kimimaro or Sasuke to keep him in check when he loses control. He voluntarily let Orochimaru experiment on him, and all it led to was Orochimaru creating something that gave pieces of Jugo's curse to dozens or maybe hundreds of other people. The Cursed Seal became one of Orochimaru's signature techniques. It's one of the things he's most known for in the series. Almost every major antagonist who worked for Orochimaru had one. It played a huge role in multiple story arcs. Sasuke's entire development during the Chunin exams and afterward was influenced by the Cursed Seal. The Sound Four used their Cursed Seals when they fought against the Konoha ninja who were trying to stop Sasuke from leaving the village. Anko's Cursed Seal became important during the Fourth Shinobi World War when it was used to revive Orochimaru. And all of it traces back to Jugo's clan, this unnamed group of people with an ability they can't control that slowly drives them insane. We don't know if there are other members still alive. We don't know where the clan originated. We don't know how many people had this ability before Orochimaru found Jugo. What we know is that Orochimaru found someone with a bloodline ability to passively absorb natural energy, studied that person extensively, extracted the biological component responsible for the transformation, and turned it into a technique he could inject into other people to grant them artificial senjutsu-based powers. In a way, the Cursed Seal is actually a pretty impressive achievement from a scientific perspective. Orochimaru took something that only one clan could do naturally and figured out how to replicate it artificially. He isolated the specific enzyme responsible. He mixed it with senjutsu chakra he learned at Ryuchi Cave. He created a controlled version that doesn't cause the same mental breakdown that Jugo's clan experiences naturally. He made it into a seal that could be applied to others through a simple bite. And he built in a fail-safe, where his consciousness is embedded in every seal so he can never truly be destroyed. From a moral perspective, it's obviously pretty terrible. He experimented on Jugo without curing him. He created a technique with a 90% fatality rate. He used it to control and manipulate people. He turned children into weapons by giving them access to power that eats away at their minds if they use it too much. He prepared people as potential host bodies for his immortality technique. The Cursed Seal is one of the most morally questionable things Orochimaru created, and that's saying something given his track record. But it all comes back to Jugo's clan. Without them, the Cursed Seal wouldn't exist. Their Kekkei Genkai is the biological foundation for one of the most important techniques used by antagonists throughout Naruto. Every time Sasuke activated his Cursed Seal, he was using a modified version of Jugo's ability. Every time the Sound Four transformed, they were experiencing artificial versions of what Jugo goes through naturally. The whole concept of using Senjutsu Chakra without proper Sage Mode training comes from Orochimaru studying how Jugo's body works. Jugo himself never blamed Orochimaru for using his ability. He never complained that his clan's power was turned into a weapon for other people. He stayed loyal to anyone strong enough to handle him when he lost control. First Kimimaro, then Sasuke. He even helped Sasuke willingly by transferring natural energy to him when needed. Jugo accepted what he was and just tried to minimize the damage he caused when he went berserk. That's kind of sad in its own way. He never got the cure he was looking for, but he made peace with being a danger to everyone around him and tried to work around it as best he could. So that's the real source of the Cursed Seal enzyme. Not some mystical technique Orochimaru invented from scratch. Not some ancient forbidden jutsu he discovered. Just the body fluids and enzymes of one guy from a clan that passively absorbs natural energy and goes crazy because of it. Orochimaru took Jugo's natural ability, the thing that made Jugo's life miserable, and turned it into a technique he could give to other people. He weaponized Jugo's curse and spread it around to dozens of followers and test subjects. And somehow, despite everything, Jugo never held it against him. He just kept living with his condition, trying not to kill people when the rage took over, and helping the people he chose to follow when he was in control of himself. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have the Uchiha Stone Tablets Prophecy, the Sons of the Sage and the Reincarnation Cycle. The Uchiha Stone Tablets Prophecy, the Sons of the Sage and the Reincarnation Cycle. The Uchiha Stone Tablet sits beneath the Naka Shrine in Konohagakure, hidden in a secret meeting room under the 7th tatami mat on the far right side of the space. This stone monument was created by Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the Sage of Six Paths, thousands of years before the main Naruto story begins. The tablet can only be read with specific eyes. Someone with the Sharingan can read part of it. Someone with the Mangekyo Sharingan can read more. only someone with the Rinnegan can read everything written on it. Hagoromo created this tablet for a specific reason. He wanted to discourage his descendants from trying to recreate the Rinnegan. The tablet was meant to be a warning, a record of history that would help future generations avoid the mistakes of the past. The original contents included several important pieces of information. It contained the secrets of the Mangekyo Sharingan, including how to obtain it and how it could be used to control the tailed beasts. It told the story of Kaguya Otsutsuki, the God Tree, and the Sage of Six Paths himself. Most importantly, it contained warnings about the infinite Tsukuyomi and the dangers it represented. To understand why this tablet matters, you need to know about Hagoromo and his family. Hagoromo was the son of Kaguya Otsutsuki, a princess who ate the forbidden chakra fruit from the God Tree. This gave her divine abilities, which she used to end the constant wars of her era. But Kaguya eventually merged with the God Tree and became the Ten Tails, a terrifying beast that rampaged across the land. Hagoromo and his twin brother Hamura fought their mother in this form and sealed her away. Hagoromo became the first Jinchuriki by sealing the Ten Tails within himself. After this victory, Hagoromo dedicated his life to spreading peace throughout the world. He taught people about chakra and created a philosophy called Ninshu, which encouraged people to use their spiritual energy to connect with others. His ultimate goal was to achieve peace across the entire world, but he knew this would take longer than his lifetime, so he decided to entrust his dream and legacy to his two sons, Indra and Asura. Indra was the older son. From birth, he was acknowledged as a true prodigy. He quickly mastered everything his father taught him and began to excel in ways that amazed everyone around him. He became very confident in his natural abilities, but also grew more solitary and distant from others. He believed that power and individual strength were the keys to achieving peace. The younger son, Asura, was completely different. He showed no special abilities or natural talent. Everything was difficult for him. But Asura pushed through his limitations, grew stronger through his struggles, and made friends with others along the way. He believed that cooperation and bonds with others were the path to peace. As Hagoromo approached death, he needed to choose which son would carry on his teachings. He gave them both a test. Each brother was sent to a different land that needed help. Indra arrived at his destination and quickly identified the problem. The land had a God Tree sapling that made the soil fertile, but it was also making the people sick. Indra used his Sharingan to force the villagers to destroy the sapling and find water instead. He completed his mission quickly and returned home. Asura took a different approach. He spent a year at his village, working alongside the people, learning from them, and helping them solve their problems together. When he returned, the people he helped came with him, showing the genuine bonds he had formed. Hagoromo chose Asura as his successor. He recognized that Asura's methods, while slower, created real connections between people and addressed the root causes of conflict. Asura valued cooperation and understood that peace required everyone working together. Indra was shocked and angry at this decision. He believed his natural talent and quick results made him the obvious choice. He felt betrayed by his father's judgment. Before Hagoromo died, Indra visited him after years of disappearance. Indra explained his ambition to take down Ninshu and everything his father had built. After Indra left, Hagoromo called Asura to his side. He explained why Asura was chosen and entrusted him with his final wish to bring peace to the world. Then Hagoromo passed away, passing his power to Asura. Indra declared war on his family and his father's teachings. He attacked the village and fought Asura directly for the title of successor. During this conflict, Indra killed his two closest friends to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, believing that greater power through personal loss would make him strong enough to challenge his father's legacy. Asura, with the help of his friends and followers, fought back against his brother. The two brothers battled repeatedly, and though their conflicts ended in stalemates, the damage was done. Indra went on to form his own following, which eventually became the Uchiha clan. Asura's descendants became the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan. On his deathbed, Hagoromo told Asura about his final meeting with Indra and his vow to undo all his father's work in a future life. Asura responded by vowing to reincarnate alongside Indra, hoping they would one day find a peaceful resolution to their conflict. This promise set in motion a cycle that would last for over 1,000 years. The reincarnation cycle worked in a specific way. After Indra and Asura died, their chakra and souls were reborn into their descendants. The cycle did not resume until both current reincarnates were dead. When Hashirama Senju died, Asura did not reincarnate immediately because Madara Uchiha was still alive. Only after Madara's second death, which occurred decades later, did both brothers reincarnate again into Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. For centuries, the reincarnations of Indra and Asura appeared in different generations. The reincarnates inherited the chakra and souls of the brothers, though they kept their own personalities and identities. Each generation carried on the conflict between the brothers in some form. According to Black Zetsu, the reincarnations were almost always in conflict with each other and rarely worked together. The two lines of descendants continued the brothers' struggle throughout the Warring States period and beyond. The most notable reincarnations before Naruto and Sasuke were Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju. These two were born during the Warring States period when the Uchiha and Senju clans were locked in constant warfare. As children, Madara and Hashirama met at a river and became friends without knowing they were from enemy clans. They shared dreams of creating a village where children would not have to die in battle. When they discovered their true identities, they became enemies, forced apart by their clan's hatred. Eventually, Madara and Hashirama worked together to found Konohagakure, the first hidden village. They wanted to create the peaceful world they had dreamed of as children. But their partnership fell apart over disagreements about how the village should be run and the future of the shinobi world. This led to their battle at the Valley of the End, where Hashirama defeated Madara. Madara survived this battle and went into hiding, where he continued to plan and scheme for decades. This is where the stone tablet becomes critically important to the story. After founding Konoha, Madara had access to the Uchiha stone tablet kept in the Naka shrine. With his Mangekyo Sharingan, he could read more of the tablet than most Uchiha clan members. What he read there planted ideas in his mind about how to achieve peace. At first, Madara still believed the shinobi world could find peace through diplomacy and cooperation. But after his falling out with Hashirama and their battle, Madara's perspective changed. The tablet told Madara about the infinite Tsukuyomi and other powerful techniques. It described methods to gain greater power and control the tailed beasts. It explained the history of the Sage of Six Paths and his mother, Kaguya. Madara took note of this information, particularly the parts about the infinite Tsukuyomi. He began to formulate a plan based on what the tablet revealed. After his battle with Hashirama, Madara awakened the Rinnegan shortly before his natural death. With the Rinnegan, he could finally read the entire tablet, including the parts that required those specific eyes to decipher. This complete reading convinced Madara even more that he was the only person capable of saving the shinobi world. He developed what became known as the Eye of the Moon plan, which involved reviving the Ten Tails and casting the infinite Tsukuyomi on the entire world. But there was a massive problem with everything Madara read on the stone tablet. The tablet had been altered. After Hagoromo's death, a being called Black Zetsu forged certain details on the tablet as part of a plan to revive Kaguya Otsutsuki. Black Zetsu was created by Kaguya herself right before she was sealed away by Hagoromo and Hamura. Black Zetsu was the physical manifestation of Kaguya's will, and its only purpose was to bring her back to life. For over 1,000 years, Black Zetsu worked in secret to manipulate events across the shinobi world. It approached Indra when he was young, praising him and encouraging him to focus on power rather than bonds with others. Black Zetsu told Indra he could rival or even surpass the Sage of Six Paths himself. These words influenced Indra, making him colder and more distant from his family. After Indra awakened his Sharingan, he took these praises to heart and focused entirely on increasing his power. Black Zetsu manipulated many of Indra's reincarnations throughout history. It orchestrated the rivalry between the Uchiha and Senju clans, keeping their hatred alive for generations. All of this was done to eventually create someone who could awaken the Rinnegan and carry out the plan to revive Kaguya. Madara became Black Zetsu's primary target when it became clear he had the potential to achieve this goal. The specific changes Black Zetsu made to the stone tablet were crucial. The original tablet warned against the infinite Tsukuyomi and explained the dangers it represented. Black Zetsu rewrote this section to say that the infinite Tsukuyomi was the only way to achieve peace. It claimed the jutsu would save the Uchiha clan and bring salvation to the world. Madara, who trusted everything written on the sacred tablet of his clan, believed these altered words completely. Madara knew the infinite Tsukuyomi was a genjutsu that would put everyone in eternal sleep, but he was desperate to see his deceased family and friends again. He convinced himself that this dream world would be better than reality, where people suffered constantly from war and loss. Black Zetsu presented itself to Madara as the manifestation of his own will, making Madara believe he had created Black Zetsu himself. This deception ensured Madara's complete trust. The reincarnation cycle had a specific purpose in Black Zetsu's plan. By manipulating both Indra's and Asura's reincarnations, Black Zetsu could create the conditions needed for someone to awaken the Rinnegan. The Rinnegan required combining the chakra of both Indra and Asura. Madara achieved this by implanting Hashirama's cells into his body before his death, merging the chakra of both brothers. This combination awakened the Rinnegan in Madara shortly before he died naturally. With the Rinnegan awakened, Madara could set the full plan in motion. He summoned the Gedo statue to extend his life while he searched for someone to continue his work. He found Obito Uchiha during the Third Great Shinobi War after Obito was crushed by a boulder, saving his teammates. Madara rescued Obito, nursed him back to health, and slowly manipulated him into following the Eye of the Moon plan. Madara showed Obito the stone tablet and taught him about the infinite Tsukuyomi. The Eye of the Moon plan required several steps. First, collect all 9-tailed beasts. Second, use them to revive the 10 tails. Third, become the 10 tails Jinchuriki. Fourth, cast the infinite Tsukuyomi by reflecting the Rinne Sharingan off the moon's surface. This would trap everyone on Earth in a perfect genjutsu. Madara believed this would end all conflict and suffering by placing everyone in a dream where they could experience their perfect reality. What Madara did not know was that the infinite Tsukuyomi's true purpose was to create the perfect conditions to revive Kaguya Otsutsuki. Kaguya could only be revived using the 10 tails chakra from its Jinchuriki. Everything Black Zetsu had manipulated for over 1,000 years led to this moment. Every war between the Uchiha and Senju, every conflict between Indra's and Asura's reincarnations, every step Madara took based on the stone tablet's altered words was all designed to bring Kaguya back. During the Fourth Great Shinobi War, Madara was revived through the Edo Tensei technique. He reclaimed his Rinnegan from Nagato Uzumaki and fought to become the 10 tails Jinchuriki. He succeeded in this goal and cast the infinite Tsukuyomi, trapping most of humanity in the Genjutsu. At that moment, when Madara believed he had saved the world, Black Zetsu betrayed him. Black Zetsu stabbed Madara through the chest and forced him to absorb all the chakra from the people trapped in the infinite Tsukuyomi. This process transformed Madara into Kaguya Otsutsuki, reviving her after 1,000 years. In those final moments, Black Zetsu revealed the truth. It was not Madara's creation or manifestation of his will. It was Kaguya's will made physical. Everything written on the stone tablet about the infinite Tsukuyomi being salvation was a lie. Madara had been manipulated from the beginning, just another piece in Black Zetsu's centuries-long plan. The current reincarnations, Naruto, Uzumaki, and Sasuke Uchiha, were born shortly after Madara's second death. Naruto inherited Asura's chakra and will. Sasuke inherited Indra's chakra and will. When the Sage of Six Paths spirit appeared to them during the war, he explained the full history of his sons and the reincarnation cycle. He revealed that Madara had broken from the normal cycle by seeking not just the Sage's power, but also Kaguya's power. Hagoromo gave both Naruto and Sasuke his power, hoping they could work together to stop Kaguya and finally end the cycle of hatred. He gave Naruto the Six Paths Yang power and Sasuke the Six Paths Yin power, along with seals that allowed them to seal Kaguya. Together with Sakura Haruno and a redeemed Obito Uchiha, they fought Kaguya and successfully sealed her away, using the same technique Hagoromo and Hamura used centuries before. After Kaguya's defeat, Naruto and Sasuke still had one final confrontation. Their battle at the Valley of the End mirrored Hashirama and Madara's fight at the same location. But unlike previous reincarnations, Naruto and Sasuke's fight ended differently. Naruto managed to accomplish what all previous reincarnations had failed to do. He ended the rift between the two lines of reincarnated brothers. After their battle, Sasuke finally accepted Naruto's ideals and understanding of peace. This brought about the end of the bitter feud that had lasted for centuries. The reincarnation cycle presumably ended with Naruto and Sasuke's reconciliation. According to Black Zetsu, the reincarnations were almost always in conflict, rarely working together. Naruto and Sasuke proved to be exceptions. They fought together against common enemies and ultimately made peace with each other after settling their personal conflict. Since the brothers' conflict was resolved through their reincarnations, there was no longer a need for the cycle to continue. The Stone Tablet, the Sons of the Sage, and the reincarnation cycle all connect to form one of the most important plot threads in the entire Naruto story. Hagoromo created the tablet to prevent future disasters. Black Zetsu corrupted it to cause those exact disasters. Indra and Asura's conflict became a cycle that repeated through their descendants for over 1,000 years. And Madara Uchiha, believing he was saving the world based on sacred knowledge, became the final key to reviving the very enemy Hagoromo had sealed away at the beginning of shinobi history. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Mask Shrine and the Shinigami, how the Reaper Death Seal is accessed in Konoha. The Mask Shrine and the Shinigami, how the Reaper Death Seal is accessed in Konoha. The Uzumaki clan's Mask Storage Temple is a shrine located on the outskirts of Konohagakure. This temple belongs to the Uzumaki clan and contains important artifacts related to their sealing techniques. At the entrance of the temple stands a giant replica of the Uzumaki clan symbol. The temple has fallen into ruin over time due to wear and tear, but the masks stored inside have stayed intact. Inside the temple, at the center, there is a podium where several Oni masks hang beneath 3 connected symbols of the Uzumaki clan. Under all of these symbols are ornate black flames. The temple contains 27 masks in total that hang on the walls. One specific mask among these is called the Shinigami mask, and putting on this mask invokes the Shinigami from the Dead Demon Consuming Seal technique. The Dead Demon Consuming Seal is a sealing technique developed by the Uzumaki clan. The technique calls upon the power of a spectral entity known as the Shinigami, which means death god. This entity can only be seen when it grasps someone's soul. The technique was kept so secret that even Orochimaru, who knew many forbidden techniques, knew nothing about it until later. When someone performs the Dead Demon Consuming Seal, they must complete hand seals. After the hand seals are performed, the user's soul is partly separated from their body and suspended behind them. Behind their soul appears the Shinigami, which restrains their soul with its hair. Only the summoner is able to see the Shinigami at this point. Nobody else can see it yet. After a few moments, the Shinigami wraps its left arm with prayer beads and chants unintelligibly until a cursed seal appears on its arm. Then it drives its arm into the summoner's soul, allowing the summoner to call upon the Shinigami to seal a target. The Shinigami's arm emerges from the summoner's body and grasps the target's soul. Once the Shinigami touches the target's soul, the target can also see the Shinigami. While the Shinigami grabs their soul, the target is frozen and cannot move. Any jutsu they were using are dispelled, and they cannot perform additional jutsu. With targets unable to escape or fight back, the summoner can remove and seal their soul. The target's soul is sealed within the body of the summoner, shown by a swirl pattern on their torso that looks similar to the 8-trigram sealing style. With the sealing completed, the Shinigami gradually starts consuming the summoner's soul. The summoner can, with difficulty, continue moving and speaking, allowing them to finish any last business they may have. But they will die as soon as their soul has been fully consumed. The souls of the summoner and their victim do not pass on to the Pure Land. Instead, they are trapped within the Shinigami's stomach, destined to fight each other for all eternity. The Dead Demon Consuming Seal has been used twice in known history with major consequences. The first time was by Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, during the Nine Tails attack on Konoha. The second time was by Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage, during his battle with Orochimaru. On the night Naruto Uzumaki was born, a masked man attacked Konoha and released the Nine Tails from Kushina Uzumaki, Naruto's mother, and the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. The seal keeping the Nine Tails inside Kushina weakened during childbirth, which the masked man took advantage of. He extracted the Nine Tails from Kushina and set it loose on the village. Minato Namikaze was the 4th Hokage at this time. He fought the masked man and freed the Nine Tails from the masked man's control. But the Nine Tails continued attacking Konoha. Minato brought Kushina and their newborn son Naruto to safety, then went to stop the Nine Tails from destroying the village. Minato realized the Nine Tails chakra was too immense to seal entirely into an infant, so he used the Dead Demon Consuming Seal to cut the Nine Tails chakra in half. He sealed the yin half of the Nine-Tails chakra into himself. The Nine-Tails realized what they were planning and tried to kill Naruto, but Minato and Kushina used their bodies as shields to protect him. With his last strength, Minato summoned Garotora and gave him the key to the seal he would use on Naruto, sending him to Jiraiya. Kushina told Naruto how much his parents loved him, and Minato agreed with everything she said. Then Minato sealed the Nine-Tails yang half into Naruto. He also wove Kushina's chakra into the seal, so she could someday help Naruto learn to control the Nine-Tails. He mixed in some of his own chakra too, programming it to activate if the seal was ever about to break so he could restore it. Minato saw the third Hokage nearby. He used his final moments to ask Konoha's villagers, through Hiruzen, to think of Naruto as a hero who saved the village and not as the container of the monster that killed so many. With that, Minato's soul was consumed by the Shinigami, ending his life. The yin half of the Nine-Tails went with him into the Shinigami's stomach. Years later, during the Chunin exams, Orochimaru invaded Konoha. He took the third Hokage hostage during the finals of the exam and revealed his true identity. Orochimaru wanted to fight and kill Hiruzen, his former teacher. He had his followers erect a barrier so the Anbu could not come to Hiruzen's defense. Orochimaru used the impure world reincarnation technique to bring back the first Hokage and the second Hokage. He suppressed their personalities and used them as weapons against Hiruzen. The third Hokage fought against his reincarnated predecessors, but he had difficulty overcoming their defenses. He summoned Enma, the Monkey King, who transformed into a large staff to help him fight. Hiruzen tried to strike Orochimaru directly, but the reincarnated Hokage blocked him. Despite his efforts, Hiruzen realized that conventional attacks would not work because the reincarnated bodies regenerated from any damage. He had few options left and prepared to use the dead demon consuming seal. Before Hiruzen could complete the technique on Orochimaru, Orochimaru showed him his new body by removing his face. This revealed that Orochimaru had completed his research on body switching and planned to do the same thing to Sasuke Uchiha. Hiruzen was disgusted by how far Orochimaru had gone and his own responsibility for letting Orochimaru escape years earlier. To rectify his mistakes, Hiruzen made 2 shadow clones that caught the first and second Hokage. The shadow clones used the dead demon consuming seal to remove the souls of both Hokage, freeing them from Orochimaru's control and sealing them away. The reincarnated Hokage had brief moments of clarity before they were sealed, where they could speak to Hiruzen one last time. With the 2 Hokage sealed, Hiruzen turned his attention to Orochimaru. He grabbed Orochimaru and began to seal his soul as well. The Shinigami's hand reached through Hiruzen's body and grabbed Orochimaru's soul, but Orochimaru stabbed Hiruzen through the back with his sword of Kusanagi before the sealing could be completed. Hiruzen was badly wounded and lacked the physical strength to fully extract Orochimaru's soul. Instead of sealing Orochimaru's entire soul, Hiruzen opted to only seal the part of Orochimaru's soul within his arms. He accomplished this by having the Shinigami cut off the arms of Orochimaru's soul. This left Orochimaru alive but paralyzed his arms and prevented him from performing hand seals. With the sealing completed, the Shinigami consumed Hiruzen's soul. Enma, still in staff form and trapped in Orochimaru's sword, pulled the blade out of Hiruzen's back before disappearing as a sign of respect. Hiruzen died with a smile on his face, having protected the village one last time. His soul, along with the souls of the first and second Hokage and the arms of Orochimaru's soul, were all trapped within the Shinigami's stomach. The sealing of Orochimaru's arms had severe consequences for him. His arms hung uselessly at his sides. He could not perform hand seals, and by extension, could not use most ninjutsu. Over time, Orochimaru regained limited use of the arms, but he was left with constant and extreme pain. His arms also began to rot. Orochimaru believed that Tsunade could heal his arms, and Tsunade did not deny this, but she refused to help him. Ultimately, after his arms began to rot severely, Orochimaru was forced to switch bodies to avoid death. He was able to make better use of the new body's arms. However, the jutsu he could use remained limited as long as his soul's arms were sealed within the Shinigami. Even in a new body, he could not fully use ninjutsu because the problem was with his soul, not his physical body. Orochimaru studied the dead demon-consuming seal for years. He researched ways to undo the sealing and free the spirits that were trapped. Eventually, he learned about the existence of the Shinigami mask and where it could be found. During the Fourth Great Shinobi War, Orochimaru decided it was finally time to restore his soul and regain his full power. Sasuke Uchiha, along with his team Taka, helped Orochimaru reach the Uzumaki clan's mask storage temple on the outskirts of Konoha. The temple had fallen into ruin by this time. It was abandoned and forgotten, with no one protecting it or maintaining it. The masks inside remained intact, despite the decay of the building around them. Inside the temple, Orochimaru identified the Shinigami mask among the 27 masks hanging on the walls. The Shinigami mask looked like the face of the Shinigami itself. Orochimaru put on the mask, which caused him to become possessed by the Shinigami. With the Shinigami possessing him, Orochimaru gained control over the entity. To release the souls trapped in the Shinigami's stomach, Orochimaru had to slice open his own stomach. When he cut his stomach, the Shinigami did the same. This released all the souls that had been sealed inside it. The souls freed included the first Hokage, the second Hokage, the third Hokage, the fourth Hokage, the yin half of the Nine Tails, and the arms of Orochimaru's soul. The mask did not have any properties that would prevent the user from dying from the stomach wound. Slicing open the stomach was a fatal injury, but Orochimaru had prepared for this. Before he died from the wound, he transferred his being into a white Zetsu that Suigetsu was holding. He slithered into the white Zetsu's mouth, using it as a new body and escaping death. With his arm's souls restored, Orochimaru regained his full ability to perform ninjutsu. He could now use hand seals again without limitation. His arms no longer caused him pain, and he could access all of his techniques once more. This restoration of his soul was crucial for what he planned to do next. With the souls of the four Hokage freed from the Shinigami, Orochimaru was able to use the impure world reincarnation technique on them. He used 4 white Zetsu clones as the bodies for the reincarnation. The first Hokage, second Hokage, third Hokage, and fourth Hokage were all brought back to life as reincarnated beings. Orochimaru explained that his reasons for bringing back the Hokage were to aid Sasuke by giving him the information he desired. Sasuke wanted to learn the truth about the village, the Uchiha clan, and the decisions that led to the Uchiha massacre. The 4 Hokage were able to answer his questions from their different perspectives, each having ruled the village during different eras. The dead demon consuming seal was originally designed as a final, permanent sealing technique. There was no known way to undo it. The souls sealed within the Shinigami were meant to be trapped forever, unable to pass on to the Pure Land or be brought back through any means. This made it one of the most powerful and feared sealing techniques in existence. The discovery of the dead demon consuming seal release technique changed this. By using the Shinigami mask from the Uzumaki clan's mask storage temple, someone could invoke the Shinigami and force it to release the souls it had consumed. This required the person wearing the mask to cut open their own stomach, which would cause the Shinigami to do the same. The person using this technique would die from the injury unless they had a way to escape death, as Orochimaru did by transferring into another body. The location of the mask storage temple on the outskirts of Konoha is significant. The Uzumaki clan and Konoha had a strong alliance. When Uzushiyogakure, the home of the Uzumaki clan, was destroyed, many Uzumaki fled to Konoha. The temple was likely established as a place to store important Uzumaki artifacts and preserve their sealing techniques. The fact that it fell into ruin and was forgotten suggests that knowledge of the Uzumaki clan's techniques was lost over time as fewer clan members remained. Only certain people knew about the temple and what it contained. The technique was kept extremely secret. The Shinigami mask and the method to release souls from the Shinigami were not common knowledge. Even someone as knowledgeable as Orochimaru, who had studied forbidden techniques for years, did not know about it until he specifically researched the dead demon-consuming seal. The temple's existence represents both the power and the tragedy of the Uzumaki clan. The Uzumaki were masters of sealing techniques, creating some of the most powerful jutsu in the shinobi world. The dead demon-consuming seal was their ultimate technique, capable of sealing anything at the cost of the user's life. The mask that could undo this seal was kept in their temple, showing they understood the need for a failsafe even for their most permanent sealing technique. But the temple falling into ruin also shows what happened to the Uzumaki clan. After Uzushiyogakure was destroyed, the clan was scattered. Fewer people remembered their techniques or knew where their artifacts were kept. Important knowledge was lost. The temple that once held sacred masks and represented the clan's mastery of sealing became an abandoned building that nobody maintained or protected. When Orochimaru found the temple and used the Shinigami mask, it demonstrated that even the most permanent sealing technique could be undone with the right knowledge and tools. The dead demon consuming seal was no longer an absolute seal. This changed the way the technique was understood. What was once thought to be an eternal prison for souls could be opened if someone knew where to find the mask and was willing to sacrifice their life to use it. The mask storage temple remains on the outskirts of Konoha. After Orochimaru used the Shinigami mask, the temple still stood with the remaining masks inside. Whether these other masks have special properties or purposes is not fully known. The Shinigami mask was the one that could invoke the Shinigami and release sealed souls. The other 26 masks may have different functions related to sealing techniques, or they may simply be decorative. The exact nature of all the masks in the temple has not been fully revealed. The temple and the technique it enabled played a crucial role in the Fourth Great Shinobi War. By bringing back the 4 Hokage, Orochimaru provided Sasuke with the information he needed to make his decision about the future of the shinobi world. The Hokage also participated in the battle against Madara Uchiha and Kaguya Otsutsuki, providing their knowledge and power when it was most needed. The Shinigami itself is a mysterious entity. It appears when the dead demon-consuming seal is performed, manifesting behind the user. Its appearance is that of a pale figure with horns and sharp teeth, carrying a blade. It follows the commands of whoever summons it through the technique, reaching out to grab the souls of whoever the user targets. Once souls are consumed, they remain in its stomach, unable to pass on or rest in peace. The relationship between the Uzumaki clan and the Shinigami is unclear. The Uzumaki developed the technique to summon and use the Shinigami's power. They also created the mask that could invoke the Shinigami and control it. This suggests deep knowledge of this spiritual entity and how to interact with it. Whether the Shinigami is an actual death god or simply a powerful spiritual being summoned through sealing techniques is not fully explained. What is clear is that the dead demon-consuming seal and the Shinigami mask represent the heights of Uzumaki sealing technique mastery. The ability to call upon such a powerful entity, seal any target's soul, and even undo that sealing, demonstrates the incredible skill and knowledge the Uzumaki clan possessed. The fact that these techniques and artifacts still exist, even after the clan was nearly wiped out, ensures that their legacy continues in the shinobi world. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Ten Tails split, how Hagoromo named the tailed beasts and foretold their future. The Ten Tails split, how Hagoromo named the tailed beasts and foretold their future. After Hagoromo Otsutsuki and his brother Hamura defeated their mother Kaguya, Hagoromo became the Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails. He sealed the Ten Tails within himself, making him the first Jinchuriki in history. Hagoromo knew that when he died, the Ten Tails would be unleashed back into the world to continue its rampage and reclaim the chakra he had spread among humanity. He needed to find a way to prevent this from happening. Hagoromo was inspired by his younger son Asura. Asura showed him the importance of cooperation, bonds between people, and working together to achieve goals. This inspiration led Hagoromo to make a decision about what to do with the Ten Tails' power. He decided to separate the Ten Tails chakra within his body and divide it into 9 separated bodies. Hagoromo used his Creation of All Things technique to perform this division. The Creation of All Things technique was a form of yin-yang release. This ability allowed him to create form from nothingness using yin chakra, which comes from spiritual energy. He could then breathe life into that form using yang chakra, which comes from physical energy. The technique was described as turning imagination into reality. It was a feat that set Hagoromo apart from other users of chakra and showed his incredible mastery over these powers. The process of extracting and dividing the Ten Tails chakra was extremely difficult and taxing on Hagoromo's body. He extracted all 9 portions of chakra at once. This left him severely weakened and incapacitated for several months. However, the powerful life force of the Ten Tails husk that remained kept him alive during this recovery period. Without that residual life force, the extraction process would likely have killed him immediately. After separating the chakra, Hagoromo was left with the empty husk of the Ten Tails. This husk still contained dangerous power and could not be left free in the world. Hagoromo used Chibaku Tensei, a powerful sealing technique, to seal the husk of the 10 tails. The technique created what would become the moon, launching the sealed husk into the sky where it remains to this day. His brother Hamura chose to stay on the moon to watch over their mother's seal and ensure the 10 tails husk remained contained. The 9 separate beings that Hagoromo created from the 10 tails chakra were the tailed beasts. Each one manifested with a unique shape and power. The chakra that composed them expressed itself in different ways for each beast. They resembled animals and had tails, which is how they earned the collective title of tailed beasts. Their only consistent similarities were their animal-like appearance and the tails they possessed. When the tailed beasts first came into being, they were like newborn children. They had no memories of their previous life as the 10 tails. They were new beings with their own identities, separate from what they had been before. Hagoromo treated them with care and gave each one a name as they awoke. The first tailed beast was Shukaku, the one tail. Shukaku took the form of a sandy brown tanuki with cursed seal markings all over its body. Hagoromo named it and helped it understand what it was and what its place in the world would be. The second was Matatabi, the 2 tails. Matatabi resembled a cat covered in blue flames. The name and form were inspired by Japanese mythology about a 2-tailed ghost cat. Matatabi proved to be polite and friendly in nature, using formal language when speaking to others. The third was Isobu, the 3 tails. Isobu had a strange appearance, resembling a turtle with a spiky shell like a crab and 3 shrimp-like tails. Isobu was timid by nature and preferred solitude. The fourth was Son Goku, the 4 tails. Son Goku took the form of a red-haired ape with the build of a gorilla, horns on its head, and powerful physical strength. Son Goku was prideful and hated being called simply 4 tails, insisting that others use his proper name. The fifth was Kokuo, the 5 tails. Kokuo had the appearance of a horse with a dolphin-like head and 5 horns. Its name meant peaceful and beautiful, or humble and dignified, reflecting its quiet nature and desire for solitude. The sixth was Seiken, the 6 tails. Seiken resembled a slug covered in a slimy, corrosive substance. Seiken had a relatively submissive and kind nature compared to the other tailed beasts. The seventh was Chomei, the 7 tails. Chomei looked like a rhinoceros beetle with armor covering its body. 6 of its 7 tails resembled insect wings that allowed it to fly, while the 7th was a more standard tail. Chomei had a friendly and bright personality, often using the word lucky in its speech. The 8th was Gyuki, the 8 tails. Gyuki had the body of an octopus with the head of an ox, resembling the Ushi-Oni from Japanese mythology. Gyuki was serious and tough in manner, speaking with slightly rude language, but possessing strong analytical abilities. The 9th and final tailed beast was Kurama, the 9 tails. Kurama took the form of an orange fox with 9 tails. Kurama held the greatest share of the 10 tails' power and was the strongest of all the tailed beasts. This led to a mistaken belief that the number of tails corresponded directly to power level, though this was not entirely accurate. After creating the 9-tailed beasts and giving each a name, Hagoromo raised them as his own children. He taught them all about the world, where they had come from, and what their future might be. He explained important truths to them about their nature and their connection to each other. Hagoromo told the young tailed beasts that they were all still linked to one another, despite being separate entities. Even though they were now 9 distinct beings with their own personalities and powers, a connection existed between them that could never be broken. This link allowed them to communicate telepathically with each other, regardless of the distance separating them. They could speak mind to mind, sharing thoughts and feelings across any span of land or sea. Hagoromo also told them that they had been born from the planet itself. Because of this origin, he felt they would become guardians of the world and examples of its greatest wonders. He hoped the 9-tailed beasts would spread out across the world and bring balance and peace to the regions they inhabited. This was part of his vision for how chakra and its power should exist in the world. Before leaving, the great toad sage Gamamaru told Hagoromo a prophecy. Gamamaru had a vision about a mischievous blue-eyed child who would one day connect with the tailed beasts and bring about a miracle. This prophecy would prove important centuries later, though Hagoromo would not live to see it fulfilled. Sometime before his death, Hagoromo gathered the tailed beasts and told them about their future. He foretold of a day when they would be brought together again. However, he made clear that this reunion would be different from their imprisonment inside the Ten Tails. They would not return to being the Ten Tails. Instead, they would come together in a new way, maintaining their individual identities while being united. Hagoromo also told them that at the time of this reunion, someone would emerge to show them what true power really was. This person would demonstrate the true meaning of power through cooperation and understanding, rather than through force and domination. The tailed beasts remembered these words throughout the centuries that followed, waiting to see if the prophecy would come true. After Hagoromo told the tailed beasts about their future, he released them to 9 different locations across the world. Each tailed beast went to find its own dwelling place. In the anime, it was shown that Hagoromo sent several of them to live in temples built for the purpose of protecting them. These temples were located in various regions suitable for each beast. Over time, the tailed beasts grew to their full size and strength, becoming mighty titans far more powerful than any other beings in the world. They reshaped the land wherever they traveled. Their immense chakra affected everything around them. Unfortunately, despite Hagoromo's hopes, the tailed beasts did not bring peace to the world as he had envisioned. The tailed beasts loved Hagoromo as a father, but they soon felt contempt for the rest of humanity. In their view, all other humans were inferior to the sage and to themselves. This attitude made them proud and violent. They would fight against any humans or animals willing to challenge them. They even engaged in conflicts with one another that caused devastating destruction to the land. The tailed beasts are made entirely of chakra-given form. Because chakra reflects emotions, the tailed beasts literally embodied the emotions present in the chakra around them. When humans nearby felt hatred, fear, or malice, the tailed beasts absorbed these negative emotions. This made their chakra tainted with negativity. The mere presence of the tailed beasts could overwhelm people with the tainted strength of their chakra. Kurama was considered the worst of them all. This was not only because of his immense power, but because he could sense negativity and was drawn to locations where malice had gathered. Kurama would suddenly appear in these places and destroy everything in sight, unleashing his contempt upon humanity. People feared and hated him for this, not understanding that he was reacting to their own negative emotions. Despite being highly intelligent beings with vast knowledge about the world and chakra, the tailed beasts were never treated well by humans. People viewed them as monsters and demons rather than the sentient creatures they truly were. This mistreatment only increased the tailed beasts' resentment toward humanity. A cycle of fear and hatred developed between humans and tailed beasts that would last for centuries. During the era when hidden villages were first founded, humans began capturing and sealing the tailed beasts. Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage of Konohagakure and a reincarnation of Asura, captured most of the tailed beasts using his wood release abilities. He distributed them among the 5 great hidden villages during the 5-Cage Summit as a way to maintain balance of power and prevent war. Each village received tailed beasts, and the villages sealed them inside people who became Jinchuriki. The Jinchuriki were often treated poorly by their own villages, feared and hated for containing the tailed beasts within them. The tailed beasts were used as weapons during wars, forced to fight and destroy on command. This treatment was the opposite of what Hagoromo had hoped for them. Centuries passed after Hagoromo's death. The prophecy about the tailed beasts reuniting and someone showing them true power seemed forgotten. The world fell into cycles of war, with the tailed beasts and their Jinchuriki caught in the middle of human conflicts. Then came the 4th Great Shinobi War. An organization called Akatsuki captured the tailed beasts one by one, extracting them from their Jinchuriki and sealing them into the demonic statue of the Outer Path. Their goal was to revive the Ten Tails and use its power to cast an infinite Tsukuyomi over the entire world. Most of the Jinchuriki died when their tailed beasts were extracted. During this war, a young shinobi named Naruto Uzumaki fought to save the tailed beasts. Naruto was the Jinchuriki of Kurama, the Nine Tails. Unlike most Jinchuriki, Naruto worked to befriend Kurama rather than simply using his power. Through persistence and understanding, Naruto and Kurama formed a genuine bond of friendship and mutual respect. When the tailed beasts were sealed inside the incomplete Ten Tails during the war, Naruto fought to free them. He learned each of their names, showing them the respect they had been denied for centuries. He spoke to them not as weapons or monsters, but as individuals deserving of dignity. This behavior reminded the tailed beasts of Hagoromo and the way he had treated them when they were first created. After Obito Uchiha became the 10 Tails Jinchuriki, a reformed Obito managed to steal portions of the tailed beast's chakra and seal them within Naruto to save his life. Inside Naruto's subconscious, the tailed beasts met with Naruto and the spirit of Hagoromo Otsutsuki. All 9 tailed beasts gathered together for the first time in centuries. At this meeting, the tailed beasts discussed what Hagoromo had told them long ago. They remembered the prophecy about reuniting and about someone showing them what true power was. As they spoke with Naruto, they realized that he was the person Hagoromo had foretold. Naruto was the mischievous, blue-eyed child from Gamamaru's prophecy. He was the one who would unite them and show them that true power came not from strength alone, but from bonds, cooperation, and understanding. The tailed beasts collectively decided that Naruto Uzumaki was the child of prophecy. They gave him portions of their chakra, enabling him to release them from Obito's control. This was their choice, made freely because they trusted Naruto and believed in what he represented. It was the first time in centuries that the tailed beasts had chosen to help a human rather than being forced. As the war continued, the tailed beasts were eventually extracted from Obito and later from Madara Uchiha when he became the 10 Tails Jinchuriki. They were then absorbed by Kaguya Otsutsuki after she was revived. Throughout these ordeals, the tailed beasts continued to support Naruto by giving him their combined power. Ultimately, Naruto and Sasuke Uchiha defeated Kaguya using the 6 Paths Chibaku Tensei technique. This ejected all the tailed beasts from Kaguya's body and sealed her away inside a newly created moon within her own dimension. The tailed beasts were finally free from being used as weapons or sources of power for others. After being freed, the spirits of Hagoromo and the past Kage summoned the tailed beasts and Team 7 back to the real world. For the first time in their long existence, the tailed beasts were truly free to make their own choices about their futures. They gathered to discuss their plans now that they were no longer imprisoned or controlled. Sasuke Uchiha briefly threatened to seal them away permanently, believing this would prevent future wars fought over their power. He used his Rinnegan to subdue the tailed beasts and sealed them with Chibaku Tensei. But Naruto reassured them that he would save them once again. After Naruto defeated and reformed Sasuke, Sasuke released all the tailed beasts from their prisons. The tailed beasts spread out through the world, free to live as they wanted. Both Gyuki and Kurama decided to return and stay with their Jinchuriki, Killer Bee, and Naruto Uzumaki, because they had formed genuine bonds of friendship with them. The other tailed beasts went their separate ways, each choosing their own path. Though the tailed beasts were physically apart, their chakra fragments remained within Naruto. This allowed his body to act as a meeting ground where they could gather telepathically, maintaining their connection just as Hagoromo had said they would. The link between them remained strong, even across great distances. Hagoromo's prophecy had come true. The tailed beasts had been reunited, though not as the 10 Tails. They came together through their connection with Naruto and their shared experience of finally being treated with respect and understanding. Someone had emerged to show them what true power was, and that person was Naruto Uzumaki, who demonstrated that power came from bonds and cooperation rather than force and domination. The tailed beasts had waited centuries for this prophecy to be fulfilled. Through all the fear, hatred, and mistreatment they endured from humanity, they never forgot what Hagoromo told them. They remembered that one day they would reunite and someone would show them the truth about power. When that day finally came, they recognized it and chose to trust in the person who embodied Hagoromo's original vision for them and for the world. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Hashirama's cells in the modern era, wood release experiments, Yamato, and the ethics of Root. Hashirama's cells in the modern era, wood release experiments, Yamato, and the ethics of Root. After Hashirama Senju died, his unique abilities did not die with him. The first Hokage possessed wood release, a Kekkei Genkai so rare that he was the only person in recorded history to naturally possess it. His cells contained extraordinary properties that made them valuable for research and experimentation. This led to decades of attempts to recreate his power, resulting in one of the darkest chapters in Konoha's history. Hashirama's cells were unlike any normal human tissue. They contained massive amounts of life energy and chakra. These cells had regenerative properties that could heal severe injuries and even replace lost body parts. They granted the ability to use wood release techniques. They could suppress and control tailed beasts. The cells also provided stamina so great that people with them implanted no longer required food or water to survive. But these benefits came with an enormous risk. The vitality of Hashirama's cells was so strong that they could overwhelm a person's body and kill them. When transplanted into someone, the cells would spread and take over, transforming the person's flesh into wood and killing them in the process. The rejection rate was extremely high, making successful transplantation almost impossible. After Hashirama's death, Konoha sanctioned several official attempts to preserve the wood-release Kekkei Genkai. The village leadership wanted to maintain this powerful ability for future generations. They conducted experiments trying to implant Hashirama's cells into volunteers. Every single attempt ended in failure. The test subjects died when their bodies could not handle the cells. After these repeated disasters, the third Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi forbade any further study of Hashirama's cells. However, the experiments did not actually stop. They simply moved underground and became secret. Decades after Hashirama died, Orochimaru exhumed his body from its resting place. Orochimaru was one of the legendary Sannin and had been a student of the third Hokage. He was a genius in forbidden techniques and biological experimentation. Orochimaru harvested cells from Hashirama's remains and began his own experiments, conducted in secret without the knowledge or approval of Konoha's leadership. Orochimaru's methods were brutal and unethical. He kidnapped 60 young children from Konoha and surrounding areas. These children were used as test subjects for his Hashirama cell experiments. Orochimaru infused each child's body with cells harvested from Hashirama's remains, hoping that one of them would prove compatible and gain the ability to use wood release. The experiments were conducted in a hidden laboratory. The children were placed in large test tubes filled with fluid, where the Hashirama cells were injected into their bodies. In the anime, it was revealed that at least one of these children remained conscious during the entire process. He watched in horror as the other 59 children died one by one, their bodies unable to handle the foreign cells. The children's deaths were painful. The Hashirama cells spread through their bodies uncontrollably, transforming their flesh into wood. Some died quickly, others suffered for longer periods before succumbing. The mortality rate was 100%, with only a single exception. One child survived. This boy had no memory of his identity or where he came from. When the other children died and Orochimaru believed all the test subjects had failed, this one child managed to break free from his test tube using newly awakened wood release abilities. He was terrified of dying alone and used the very power that had killed the others to escape. The child was found by Danzo Shimura shortly after. Danzo was an elder of Konoha and the founder of an organization called Root. When Danzo discovered the boy could use wood release, he immediately recognized the value of this unique ability. Rather than returning the child to normal society or informing the Hokage, Danzo took the boy into Root and gave him the codename Kinoe. Before Orochimaru was discovered and forced to flee the village for his crimes, he believed all 60 children had died. He abandoned the project, thinking it was a complete failure. He never knew that one child had survived and was now in Danzo's possession. Kino had no name, no identity, and no memories from before the experiments. His first memories were of being in that test tube, watching other children die around him. Danzo took advantage of this blank slate and molded Kinoe into a Root operative. Danzo personally trained Kinoe, which was unusual because Danzo typically did not train Root members himself. He gave Kinoe a scroll containing the secrets and various techniques of wood release, helping him develop his abilities. As Kino grew older, under Danzo's training, he became a skilled operative. He could use wood release techniques, though they were significantly weaker than Hashirama's original abilities. Kino could create wooden structures and use them in combat, but he could not perform the massive scale techniques that Hashirama was famous for. His wood release required external aids like Hashirama's crystal necklace to suppress Jinchuriki, something that would have been easier for Hashirama himself. Root was officially a branch of Konoha's Anbu, but in reality it operated autonomously. ANBU was the elite special forces unit that handled assassinations, espionage, and dangerous missions. Root was supposed to be a subdivision of ANBU, but Danzo ran it as his own private army, with minimal oversight from the Hokage. The organization's name came from its philosophy. Root members saw themselves as the unseen ones who support the great tree of Konoha from the depths of the earth. They believed they did the dirty work that regular shinobi could not do, operating in shadows to protect the village. This philosophy sounded noble, but in practice, it meant Root carried out missions that were morally questionable or outright illegal. Root's training methods were extreme. Children recruited into Root underwent harsh conditioning designed to strip away their emotions and personalities. They were taught to suppress all feelings of friendship, love, fear, and compassion. The goal was to create perfect soldiers who would follow orders without question or hesitation. Root members were given code names instead of using their real names, further erasing their individual identities. Every Root member had a cursed seal placed on their tongue by Danzo. This seal was a form of control. If a Root member tried to speak about Danzo, Root's activities, or classified information, the seal would activate and paralyze their entire body. They would be unable to speak or move. This seal ensured absolute secrecy and prevented Root members from betraying the organization or revealing its crimes. Root carried out missions that Danzo believed would benefit Konoha, regardless of whether they were ethical or legal. Some of these missions involved eliminating people who were merely considered potential threats, even if they had not actually done anything against the village. If someone simply expressed dislike for Konoha in conversation, Root might assassinate them to prevent them from becoming a future problem. The organization operated in the dark, completely autonomous from Konoha's authority. Many of Root's missions were never reported to the Hokage. Danzo made decisions on his own about who to kill, who to spy on, and what actions to take. This gave him enormous power that operated outside the normal chain of command. After the fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze died, Hiruzen Sarutobi returned to his position as third Hokage. Danzo opposed this and believed he should have been chosen as Hokage instead. He manipulated a young ANBU member named Kakashi Hatake, who was emotionally unstable after Minato's death, into joining Root temporarily. Danzo then sent Root members, including Kino, on a mission to assassinate the third Hokage. However, Kakashi was not actually loyal to Danzo. He warned the third Hokage about the assassination attempt and went to intercept the attackers. Kakashi confronted Kinoe and quickly defeated him in combat using his Chidori technique. But instead of killing Kinoe, Kakashi chose to spare his life. Kakashi believed that Kinoe's wood-release abilities would be valuable to the village in the future, and that Kinoe could become a good person if removed from Danzo's influence. After this failed assassination, Kino began following Kakashi from a distance. He was curious about why Kakashi had spared him and wanted to understand Kakashi's way of thinking. This led to Kinoe being sent on another mission by Danzo, this time involving Orochimaru's defection from Konoha. Danzo ordered Kinoe to meet with Orochimaru at an underground cave that secretly housed the Aburi clan. The Aburi were a small clan with a unique Kekkei Genkai that allowed them to transform their bodies into smoke. Orochimaru had been experimenting on them. Kinoe was supposed to deliver a message to the clan, who had promised to help Orochimaru escape the country. At the Aburi clan's hideout, Kino met a young girl named Yukimi. She insisted that Kino was her younger brother named Tenzo, who had been taken away for experiments years earlier. Yukimi's actual brother Tenzo had been one of Orochimaru's test subjects and had likely died during those experiments. But Yukimi was convinced that Kinoe was Tenzo because of their similar appearance. Kakashi also infiltrated the Iburi clan's hideout, as his mission was to ensure Orochimaru did not escape the country. When Kakashi was captured by the clan, Kinoe convinced them to let him interrogate Kakashi alone. In private, Kino revealed to Kakashi that his actual mission was the same as Kakashi's, meaning he was secretly working against Danzo's orders. The Iburi clan leader Gata overheard this conversation and ordered both Konoha shinobi to be killed. Yukimi refused to let Kinoe die and saved both him and Kakashi. She escaped with Kinoe, calling him Tenzo throughout their time together. Kinoe eventually announced that his name was Tenzo, accepting the identity Yukimi had given him. Kakashi recognized that Kinoe cared for Yukimi in a similar way to how Kakashi had cared for his deceased teammate Rin Nohara. The two shinobi agreed to work together to save Yukimi from Orochimaru. They discovered that Orochimaru had killed the rest of the Iburi clan and captured Yukimi to steal her clan's abilities. Yukimi's body began to destabilize because of a curse mark Orochimaru had placed on her. Kinoe used his wood release to help stabilize her condition, working together with the spirits of the dead Iburi clan members. They successfully saved Yukimi's life. Kakashi decided not to report anything about the Iburi clan or Root's involvement in the incident. After this mission, Kinoe continued serving in Root, but began questioning Danzo's methods. 3 years later, Danzo assigned Kinoe and another Root member named Kinoto to steal the Sharingan from Kakashi's eye socket. Danzo feared that his own transplanted Sharingan would go blind from overuse and wanted Kakashi's eye as a replacement. Kinoe was ordered to kill Kakashi during this mission. However, Kinoe could not bring himself to betray someone he now considered a friend. He created a fake Sharingan made of wood and sent it to Danzo instead of stealing Kakashi's real eye. When Danzo discovered this deception, he was furious and ordered that a seal be placed on Kaino to force absolute obedience. Before this seal could be applied, Kakashi intervened. He had been ordered by the third Hokage to summon Danzo to the Hokage's office. The timing of this intervention saved Kinoe from being sealed. The third Hokage then personally demanded that Danzo release Kinoe from Root and transfer him to the regular ANBU forces under the Hokage's direct command. Once in the regular ANBU, Kino was placed on Team Ro under Kakashi's leadership. Kakashi suggested that Kino use his chosen name of Tenzo, and Kinoe happily agreed. This marked the beginning of a new life for the former Root operative. He was no longer Kino, the emotionless weapon. He was Tenzo, a person with his own identity and choices. Tenzo served in Anbu for many years and built an excellent service record. He became one of the highest-performing Anbu members who served under the third Hokage. His wood release abilities proved valuable on numerous missions, exactly as Kakashi had predicted years earlier. Years later, when Tsunade became the fifth Hokage, she needed someone to replace Kakashi as the temporary leader of Team 7. Kakashi was being assigned to other duties, and Team 7 needed supervision, particularly because Naruto Uzumaki was a Jinchuriki who sometimes lost control of the Nine-Tails chakra. Tsunade assigned Tenzo to this role and gave him the codename Yamato for security purposes, as ANBU identities were supposed to remain secret. This was how Yamato became known to Naruto, Sakura, and the broader ninja community. His real name, if he even had one before being kidnapped by Orochimaru, was lost forever. He had been Kinoe in Root, then Tenzo in Anbu, and now Yamato as Team 7's captain. Throughout all these identity changes, he remained the only successful survivor of Orochimaru's Hashirama cell experiments. Yamato's wood release proved useful in many situations. He could suppress Naruto's transformations when the Nine-Tails chakra began taking over. He helped rebuild Konoha's destroyed buildings after Pain's assault on the village, using wood release to create new structures. His abilities made him a valuable asset to the village, though his wood release would never match the scale and power of the first Hokage's techniques. The ethics of Root remained a controversial subject. Root carried out assassinations, kidnapped people for experiments, and manipulated events behind the scenes. Danzo collaborated with Orochimaru's illegal experiments and covered up his crimes in exchange for receiving augmentations to his own body. Danzo had Orochimaru surgically attach an arm to him that was embedded with multiple Sharingan eyes and infused with Hashirama's cells. Root members were trained from childhood to have no emotions and no personal connections. They were given no names, only code names. They were forced to kill their friends as part of their training to eliminate emotional attachments. The cursed seals on their tongues meant they could never speak freely about what they had witnessed or been forced to do. Danzo believed all of this was necessary for Konoha's protection. He saw himself as doing the terrible things that others were unwilling to do, making sacrifices that soft-hearted leaders like Hiruzen would not make. From Danzo's perspective, Root operated in shadows so that others could live in light. He genuinely believed he was protecting the village, even when his methods involved killing children, covering up massacres, and manipulating people through fear. But Danzo's actions often created the very threats he claimed to be preventing. He helped Orochimaru conduct illegal experiments, which strengthened Orochimaru and gave him knowledge he would later use against Konoha. He manipulated events that turned Nagato against Konoha, creating one of the village's most dangerous enemies. He orchestrated the Uchiha clan massacre, which drove Sasuke Uchiha to become a rogue ninja. Many of Konoha's problems could be traced back to Root's interference. The third Hokage knew about many of Root's activities, but failed to stop them effectively. Hiruzen officially disbanded Root after the Uchiha clan massacre, but the organization continued operating underground. Root members remained loyal to Danzo even after his death, showing how deeply the conditioning had affected them. After the Fourth Shinobi World War ended, the 5th Hokage Tsunade and the 6th Hokage Kakashi prevented background checks of Root members. They wanted to protect former Root operatives from being further ostracized by the village. This allowed people like Sai, who had been conditioned by Root since childhood, to integrate into normal society and begin recovering from their traumatic upbringing. The legacy of Hashirama cell experiments was mixed. On one hand, Yamato's wood release proved valuable in protecting Konoha and rebuilding after disasters. On the other hand, 59 children died horrible deaths to produce one survivor. The experiments were conducted without consent, using kidnapped children as test subjects. Even after Yamato survived, he was immediately exploited by Danzo and trained to be an emotionless weapon. Hashirama's cells continued to be used after these early experiments. Madara Uchiha implanted Hashirama's cells into his own body, which allowed him to awaken the Rinnegan and become incredibly powerful. Obito Uchiha's crushed body was repaired using Hashirama's cells, which saved his life, but also made him strong enough to become a major threat. Danzo's arm was infused with Hashirama's cells to support the multiple Sharingan embedded in it. After the Fourth Shinobi World War, Naruto's severed arm was replaced with a prosthetic created from Hashirama's cells using scientific ninja technology. The question of whether these experiments were justified remained controversial. Some argued that Yamato's survival and usefulness to the village proved the research had value. Others pointed out that no benefit could justify kidnapping 60 children and killing 59 of them in painful experiments. The fact that Root conducted these experiments in secret, without oversight or consent, made them clearly unethical regardless of the results. Root represented the darker side of Konoha's philosophy. The village claimed to value protecting comrades and the will of fire, but Root showed what happened when those ideals were twisted. Danzo took the idea of protecting the village and used it to justify any action, no matter how cruel or immoral. He believed the ends justified the means, that sacrificing individuals was acceptable if it benefited the collective. This philosophy turned children into weapons, stripped away their humanity, and created cycles of trauma that affected generations. Former Root members like Sai and Yamato had to spend years recovering from their conditioning, learning how to feel emotions and form genuine connections with others. Some never fully recovered from what Root did to them. The story of Hashirama cells in the modern era was ultimately a story about the cost of power. Hashirama's abilities were extraordinary, and many people wanted to recreate them. But the attempts to do so killed dozens of children, empowered dangerous criminals, and enabled an organization that committed atrocities in the name of village security. The one successful experiment, Yamato, survived by chance and spent his childhood as a tool for Root's dark purposes, before finally gaining freedom and identity in adulthood. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Land of Iron neutrality, Samurai Chakra Flow and why Shinobi Nations respected its status. Land of Iron neutrality, Samurai Chakra Flow, and why Shinobi Nations respected its status. The Land of Iron was one of the most politically unique countries in the Shinobi world. Unlike the 5 great Shinobi nations that relied on ninja villages for military power, the Land of Iron was protected entirely by samurai. More importantly, the Land of Iron maintained strict neutrality and never participated in any of the ninja wars that consumed the rest of the world. This neutrality was not just claimed, but actually respected by all the Shinobi nations, making the Land of Iron the ideal location for diplomatic meetings between hostile powers. The Land of Iron was located in the northern region of the world, positioned among 3 mountains called the Three Wolves. The entire country was covered in snow year-round due to its cold climate. The harsh terrain and freezing temperatures served as natural defenses, making any military invasion extremely difficult. Enemy forces would need to survive the brutal environment before even reaching the samurai defending the country. Despite being isolated from the shinobi world, the Land of Iron was said to possess an incredibly strong military. The third Tsuchikage Onoki stated that any shinobi would be foolish to challenge the military power of the Land of Iron. This was not an empty claim. The samurai of the Land of Iron were formidable warriors who had developed their own unique combat style that made them dangerous opponents even for skilled shinobi. Samurai represented an older military tradition that predated the modern shinobi system. According to the history mentioned in the series, samurai and shinobi diverged in how they received the teachings of Ninshu from the Sage of Six Paths. Samurai were more spiritual and idealistic in their approach, while shinobi focused on using chakra to maintain bonds between people. Over time, shinobi became the dominant military force, and most countries replaced their samurai with ninja villages. The Land of Iron was the only major country that continued to use samurai as its primary military force. The samurai wore distinctive armor that was different from anything worn by shinobi. Their armor consisted of heavy, segmented plates that covered the shoulders, chest, stomach, upper back, lower sides, and thighs. They also wore gauntlets, shin guards, and helmets. Senior officers wore horns on their helmets to identify their rank. The face masks worn by samurai had built-in radios for communication and functioned as respirators to protect against poison, which was commonly used by shinobi in combat. Samurai carried multiple swords, typically smaller blades closer in size to wakizashi rather than full-length katana. The scabbards were mounted directly onto their armor's folds for quick access. Despite using shorter blades, samurai compensated for this limitation through their unique chakra techniques. Like shinobi, samurai possessed chakra and could manipulate it. However, samurai used their chakra in a completely different way than ninja. While shinobi performed hand seals to create ninjutsu and genjutsu, samurai channeled their chakra directly through their swords. This technique was called chakra flow, and it formed the foundation of samurai combat ability. When a samurai channeled chakra through their blade, several effects occurred. The chakra extended the reach of the sword far beyond its physical length. A samurai wielding a short wakizashi could strike opponents at distances normally requiring a much longer weapon. The chakra also dramatically increased the cutting power of the blade, allowing samurai to slice through materials that would normally be too hard for their swords to cut. Samurai could launch this chakra at range by swinging their blades and releasing crescents of energy at distant targets. These chakra crescents traveled through the air and could hit enemies who were not in melee range. The projectiles were powerful enough to completely penetrate large stone pillars and continue damaging the surroundings beyond their initial target. The most advanced samurai could use shape transformation with their chakra blades. This allowed them to sculpt their chakra into different weapon forms that extended beyond the dimensions of their original swords. A samurai could transform their chakra blade into a broadsword for greater reach, a spiked shaft for different attack angles, or even an axe for devastating strikes. The chakra crescents they launched could also take different shapes depending on the weapon form they had created, including giant buzzsaws and various other projectiles. This ability to reshape their chakra weapons gave samurai tactical flexibility. They could carry smaller, lighter swords that were easier to wield while wearing heavy armor, then extend and reshape their chakra blades as needed for each situation. This made samurai fighting styles unpredictable and allowed them to conduct surprise attacks by suddenly changing their weapon's reach and shape mid-combat. The samurai were typically taught Iaido, a specific sword-drawing technique focused on speed. Iaido involved drawing the sword from its scabbard, striking an opponent, removing blood from the blade, and resheathing the sword in one smooth, controlled sequence. The speed of these techniques was such that when performed by a skilled practitioner, the initial strike could happen before an opposing shinobi had time to perform the hand seals required for ninjutsu. This gave samurai a significant tactical advantage against ninja. Most ninjutsu required hand seals, and these seals took time to perform. A samurai using Iaido could close the distance and strike during the brief moment when a shinobi was forming seals, potentially killing them before they could complete their technique. This made samurai particularly effective against shinobi in close and mid-range combat situations. The leader of the Land of Iron was Mifune, who held the title of general. Mifune had long gray hair that reached almost to his waist, with bandages wrapped around his head covering an old wound. He had a gray goatee and mustache, with black eyes and wrinkles beneath them. During official meetings and ceremonies, Mifune wore simple purple kimono-like robes, but in combat he wore traditional samurai armor. Mifune was known for being calm, disciplined, and level-headed. He rarely showed strong emotional reactions and maintained composure even in tense situations. During the diplomatic meetings he hosted, Mifune acted as a neutral moderator, keeping discussions productive and preventing arguments from escalating into violence. His lack of association with shinobi politics and past conflicts allowed him to serve as an impartial mediator between leaders who otherwise would not trust each other. Mifune earned his reputation through a legendary encounter with Hanzo of the Salamander. At some point in the past, Mifune and other samurai were confronted by Hanzo, who was considered one of the most dangerous shinobi alive. All the other samurai fled in fear when they saw Hanzo, but Mifune stood his ground and fought him to protect his comrades. During their battle, Hanzo's kusarigama broke through Mifune's sword and struck his head, poisoning him with Hanzo's deadly toxin. Despite winning the battle, Hanzo was so impressed by Mifune's courage, faith, and strength that he gave Mifune the antidote to the poison and spared his life. Hanzo acknowledged Mifune as a true warrior and left him alive out of respect. This encounter established Mifune's reputation as a fearless samurai and earned him Hanzo's respect, which was rarely given to anyone. Beneath his calm exterior, Mifune was devoted to the ideal of harmony. He believed strongly in cooperation and peace between nations. When the threat of Akatsuki became too great to ignore, Mifune showed no hesitation in abandoning the Land of Iron's traditional neutrality to commit his samurai forces to fighting alongside the shinobi nations. Despite centuries of the Land of Iron staying out of ninja wars, the shinobi nations respected the Land of Iron's neutrality for several important reasons. First, there was a long-standing unwritten agreement among shinobi nations not to interfere with the Land of Iron. This agreement had existed since ancient times and was honored by all the major powers. The exact origins of this agreement were not fully explained, but it appeared to be based on mutual recognition that the Land of Iron posed no threat to any shinobi nation and served a valuable purpose as neutral ground. Second, the differing ideologies between shinobi and samurai created a natural separation. Samurai and shinobi had fundamentally different philosophies about warfare, honor, and the use of chakra. These differences meant that the Land of Iron did not compete with shinobi nations for resources, territory, or influence. The samurai kept to themselves and showed no interest in expanding their territory or imposing their way of life on others. Third, the Land of Iron's samurai were formidable enough that invading them would be extremely costly. While the exact size of the samurai forces was never specified, they were numerous enough to field entire divisions during the Fourth Shinobi World War. Combined with the harsh terrain and natural defenses of the Land of Iron's mountainous, snow-covered geography, any nation attempting to conquer them would suffer heavy losses even if they succeeded. The risk and cost of invasion simply was not worth whatever benefit might be gained. Fourth, the Land of Iron provided valuable neutral ground for diplomacy. In a world where the 5 great shinobi nations had fought 3 massive wars against each other, trust between them was minimal. Leaders could not safely travel to rival nations for meetings without fearing assassination or imprisonment. The Land of Iron offered a secure location where hostile powers could meet to negotiate without either side having home advantage or the ability to easily betray the other. Because the Land of Iron had little involvement with the shinobi world and no historical conflicts with any of the major powers, it was the ideal neutral meeting place. Shinobi nations frequently used the country to host diplomatic discussions. The Land of Iron had hosted at least one previous Kage summit before the one shown in the series, and later became the headquarters of the Shinobi Union. When the 4th Raikage called for a Kage summit to address the threat of Akatsuki, the meeting was held in the Land of Iron specifically because of its neutrality and security. Each cage was allowed to bring only 2 bodyguards to the meeting. The Land of Iron strengthened its guard to protect the summit from potential attacks, though this security was tested when Sasuke Uchiha later infiltrated and attacked the meeting. Mifune acted as moderator for the 5 Kage Summit. The meeting brought together 5 leaders who had significant reasons to distrust each other due to decades of warfare and political conflicts between their nations. The 3rd Tsuchikage Onoki had hired Akatsuki mercenaries in the past. The 4th Kazekage had potentially used Akatsuki to facilitate an invasion of Konoha. The Mizukage's village of Kirigakure had suspicious connections to Akatsuki. The new acting Hokage Danzo Shimura had a reputation for questionable methods. The 4th Raikage was furious about Akatsuki's capture of his brother Killer B, the 8-Tails Jinchuriki. The Kage quickly began arguing due to these ideological differences and mutual distrust. Mifune intervened multiple times to keep the meeting productive and civil. He reminded the Kage that they needed to focus on the common threat of Akatsuki rather than past grievances against each other. When the Raikage became enraged after Danzo mentioned Killer B, Mifune was able to calm him using words alone, prompting the Raikage to regain composure. As a neutral party with no stake in shinobi politics, Mifune's input was respected by the Kage. When the possibility of forming an alliance between the 5 nations was raised, Mifune asked that his perspective be considered. He suggested that Danzo be placed in charge of the alliance, arguing that Konoha's 9 tails was the only tailed beast not yet captured by Akatsuki, which made Konoha the most invested in defeating Akatsuki. Mifune explained why each of the other Kage was unsuitable for leadership. The 5th Kazekage Gaara was too young and inexperienced. The 3rd Tsuchikage was too old and had employed Akatsuki most frequently in the past. Kirigakure under the Mizukage had suspicious connections to Akatsuki. The 4th Raikage's village had lost track of their Jinchuriki, which called their competence into question. However, Mifune's suggestion was later revealed to be the result of manipulation. Danzo had used Genjutsu from the Sharingan Eye of Shisui Uchiha to subtly influence Mifune's thoughts without him realizing it. When Ao of Kirigakure exposed this manipulation using his Byakugan, the other Kage turned against Danzo for violating the rules of the summit by using ninjutsu and attempting to cheat his way into leadership. Mifune himself was embarrassed by having been manipulated but took responsibility for the situation rather than making excuses. When Sasuke Uchiha attacked the summit, he was declared an international criminal for challenging all 5 great ninja villages and for meddling with the neutral Land of Iron. This declaration showed that the shinobi nations took violations of the Land of Iron's neutrality seriously. The Land of Iron's neutrality was protected not just by tradition and agreement, but by the understanding that attacking neutral ground during diplomatic meetings would be condemned by all nations. After Madara Uchiha appeared at the summit and declared the 4th Shinobi World War, the Kage and Mifune agreed to form the Shinobi Alliance. This was the first time in history that all 5 great shinobi nations united under a single military alliance. Mifune also committed the Land of Iron and its samurai forces to join the alliance, abandoning centuries of neutrality because he recognized that Akatsuki's plan threatened the entire world, not just the shinobi nations. In the allied shinobi forces, Mifune became the general of the 5th Division. During the war, he commanded both samurai and shinobi troops in combat against the reanimated forces controlled by Kabuto Yakushi. Mifune faced several powerful opponents during the war, including a reanimated Hanzo. When Mifune confronted Hanzo again during the war, their rematch had a different outcome than their first battle. Although Hanzo was reanimated in a weakened state compared to his prime, Mifune had also grown much stronger over the decades since their first encounter. Using his mastered Ieido techniques, Mifune was able to intercept Hanzo's attempts to perform ninjutsu by striking faster than Hanzo could form hand seals. This ability to prevent ninjutsu through sheer speed earned Mifune the nickname Mifune of Iei. Mifune told Hanzo that he had survived their first encounter and that he had not lost his faith in his ideals like Hanzo had done. Hanzo acknowledged that Mifune had become stronger and accepted defeat. Rather than continuing to fight as a mindless reanimated puppet, Hanzo regained his sense of self and pride as a warrior. Mifune allowed Hanzo to reclaim his dignity by performing seppuku, an honorable death for a samurai. Mifune also fought against other powerful reanimated shinobi, including Chiyo and Kimimaro. When the 10 Tails appeared on the battlefield, Naruto shared some of Kurama's chakra with the allied shinobi forces, including Mifune. Enhanced by this chakra, Mifune and other fighters were able to deflect one of the Ten Tails' attacks and severely wound the beast. Mifune later charged toward the Ten Tails tree form alongside the rest of the alliance, cutting down several limbs of the tree and declaring that the samurai would show their resolve on the battlefield alongside the shinobi. The Land of Iron's neutrality survived into the next generation. After the Fourth Shinobi World War ended, the Shinobi Union established its headquarters in the Land of Iron, again taking advantage of its neutral status as a location that no single nation controlled. The Continental Summit, another major diplomatic meeting, was also held in the Land of Iron, with Mifune serving as chairman due to his neutrality. Years later, the 7th Hokage Naruto Uzumaki and Mifune established a student exchange program to bridge the gap between samurai and shinobi cultures. Mifune's last disciple, Tsubaki Kurogane, was sent to Konohagakure as an exchange student to learn from shinobi and bring back knowledge to the Land of Iron. This program showed that even as the shinobi world evolved and changed, the Land of Iron maintained its unique identity while fostering peaceful cooperation with the ninja nations. The respect for the Land of Iron's neutrality was ultimately based on practical considerations, historical precedent, and mutual benefit. The shinobi nations had everything to gain from maintaining a neutral meeting ground and nothing to gain from conquering the Land of Iron. The samurai were strong enough to make conquest costly, but posed no threat to any shinobi nation. Their different ideology and combat style meant they filled a different role in the world rather than competing with ninja villages. Most importantly, the Land of Iron proved that neutrality was possible even in a world consumed by warfare. While the 5 great shinobi nations fought 3 massive wars and countless smaller conflicts over decades, the Land of Iron maintained its independence and stayed out of these battles. When the Land of Iron finally did abandon neutrality to join the 4th Shinobi World War, it was a free choice made because they recognized a threat to the entire world, not because they were forced or invaded. This demonstrated that the respect for their neutrality was genuine rather than merely convenient. The samurai's chakra flow techniques represented a completely different approach to using chakra compared to shinobi methods. Instead of learning hundreds of individual techniques that required different hand seals, samurai mastered the art of channeling raw chakra through their weapons to enhance their physical combat abilities. This made them particularly dangerous opponents because their techniques could not be predicted by memorizing hand seals, and their speed of attack often outpaced the time needed to perform ninjutsu. The Land of Iron and its samurai demonstrated that there were multiple valid paths to military power in the Naruto world, and that neutrality backed by strength could be maintained even when surrounded by hostile superpowers locked in perpetual conflict. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.